Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It is episode 32 of Late Night with the Gringo, and we are back. We're back. It is a beautiful night down here south of the border where lots is going on because, well, lots are going on north of the border. Second day of the inauguration process, or the second day of the Trump administration. I would say, there's a few little things that he's doing, going to masses, things like that, but he's in full swing. He is having executive order parties at this point in time with what he's been signing yesterday and today. A lot of fallout, and some of it's really controversial, and some of it's necessary, and some of it's a little out there, but you know what? We're going to get into some of those. Not all of them. He signed well over 100. I think it was 120, or probably more than 120 at this point in time. One executive order absolutely just took 80 executive orders that Biden had in place and just tore them down. Fine by me. That's a great way to start, and I think that is exactly how we started. Well, some of the first executive orders he started was just basic procedural stuff, because when you appoint people to the cabinet, it's done by executive order before it goes to the Senate and all that fun stuff. And congratulations to Marco Rubio, former senator of Florida. He is now our new Secretary of State, and there's even an executive order around his goal and his mission as Secretary of State and as the State Department as a whole. We'll take a look at that as well. Forgot to clean my glasses. But there's other things going on in the world, and a little controversy. We're going to talk about Elon Musk and his, his hand gesture, I guess that's what I'm going to call it, because there is just so many people losing their mind, and it's already starting with the BS. How many times can you call people the N-word from Germany? The bad guys from World War II. How many times can you say that? And it's just at this point, it has no effect. All right, it literally. And let me tell you how much no effect it has on people like me. I remember when they were burning effigies of Barack Obama as president, and they put the little mustache on his face. It didn't work then for me as someone who was, not the biggest fan of Barack Obama. I'm like thinking, that's just stupid. That doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't work. It didn't work during the election for way more than half the country, and it's certainly not going to work now. I mean, does anybody really believe anything about Elon Musk that the left is saying right now? And I don't think you are. But there's just a lot, and some TikTok news, actually. What kind of TikTok news? I call it TikTok Red Note news. But I'm joined here.
Red Notice.
Red Notice. Red Note? Red Note.
No, it's Red Note.
It's Red Note.
It's called Red. The app is called Red Note.
Okay. So, they did get some red notices.
Exactly.
I'm joined here again by my son, and we are...
Hello.
Hello. It's been an interesting day. We might get interrupted, but that's okay because, everybody gets sick every now and again. Unfortunately, my wife is in bed ill, and if you're a husband or a father, you know that when mom gets sick, everybody gets sick, which means that when mom is sick, you got to take care of her, and it's just the right thing to do. Make sure she's got nothing to worry about. So all of a sudden, you hear a moaning wail of a person from outside our office here. It's not a ghost. It's just my wife calling for help.
It'd be cool if we had a ghost on stream. Kind of.
I beg to differ, my friend. I beg to differ. So, you having a good day? You've had a good day.
Yeah, working here and there and doing things.
Nice, good.
A little tired.
Yeah.
I think if she's got something, she's kind of started to pass it on to me.
Don't pass it to me. Don't pass it. I don't need that. I don't need that in my life. All right, let's get into it. Boom. Oh, look at this poor lady crying. This is the lady. This is one of the ladies. Asylum seekers in tears at border as Trump suspends Biden era app. So yes, there's a lot of stuff going on with immigration. A lot of executive orders flying around. One of them to close down the border app. Basically, this is an app that you could download standing across the Rio Grande and self-identify your own. We trusted you to put in your true information. And then you just come across at a certain time, and you're in, and it's no problem.
You have like an appointment, and they sort of verify, I guess you.
Yes,
I'm not sure how the process exactly works.
Yeah, I mean, but once you're in, how many of them are really showing up for the appointment? And so Trump has declared an illegal national emergency. Like I said, the Biden, what was it, CPB1, or what was the name of the app? Border app.
Yeah, it was like CPB.
Yeah, something like that. Civil rights group challenges to restrict birthright citizenship. And man, we've got a lot on that because you know what? A lot of people are saying the 14th Amendment is solid. It can't be challenged. And I'm here to tell you, hell yes, it can. And we'll get into it. But
And I'll be frank. I was one of those people at first. I thought there's no way. You start reading this amendment and some of the precedents, it gets complicated real quick.
you know, it does get really complicated. But when you start reading it, also there's a lot of wiggle room.
Yeah, they left it a little vague in certain points. At first, if you read it just at a first glance, it looks solid, no problem. But if you reread the last few lines, you're like, oh, wait a second, I did not read that properly.
Yeah, and if you read, there was one guy, Congressman John Bingham from Ohio, who actually wrote the first section of the amendment, which is where the birthright citizenship occurs, and he had some things to say.
Well, it's the original author is telling you what it's supposed to be.
What it's supposed to be about. And we're going to get into it. But first, let's see what else we had going on here before we get into all of that. Oh, wow. That's because that is a ton. I really wanted to start with Elon because I like to start with stupidity sometimes before we get into the executive orders. Supposedly, Elon made a Romanesque salute, as best as we can say that.
Yeah, that's about the best you can say. I mean, I can tell you the Romans do love it.
I bet they do. But
some of them do.
But if you were actually watching and listening to Elon Musk, he's basically saying, I give you all of my heart. And that's what he was doing. He put his hand over his heart and threw it out there. And that is what he was not.
Unfortunate hand positions. You know, if you put it like this, as you know, you can't see on stream. Like this, no problem. A little more flat-handed.
He was like this. I mean, people see what you want to see because the left wants to see this evil. They want to see, especially the progressive left, like MSNBC and all that. They want to see evil. They want to say, see, we're right, you know, and all this. It's the worst. It's the dark times. It's the end times. It's because they have nothing else. They can't argue on policy. There's nothing they can do to argue on policy because they've been wrong so often. And all they can do is try to label us as all these bad words, and it's not going to work because Americans have gotten way, way too intelligent and way too sophisticated, and we're tired of you. I think Elon even said it. I think, you know what, he did say something. Okay, here we go. Social media swarmed with confusion and theories. WTF, what did Elon Musk just do? One ex-user asked. Did Elon Musk just hit the Roman salute at his inauguration speech? Obviously, that idiot wasn't listening. Here's Bill Madden, some musician and environmental activist, stated, if giving the N-word Sieg Heil salute was an Olympic event like gymnastics, Elon Musk would have received a perfect score of 10. Musk even nailed the facial expression. Seriously, blank would be jealous. And we did the H word, you know.
The H name.
The name. So Bill Madden, seeing things, musician and environmental activist Bill Madden, maybe dropping a few too many just innuendo into that statement because it just wasn't there, people. It wasn't there. Of course, Blue Sky was all over it. You know, X's quote unquote rival. If I even signed up for Blue Sky, I haven't even used it since then because it just, I don't know, just seems useless. But all he was saying was, "I give you my heart," and that was it. He wasn't doing anything like that. It's a stupid hand gesture. The people just, like I said, reading into it.
My apologies.
And then people saying, "Oh, are you defending?" People are saying, "Oh, you're defending this type of behavior." No, we're not defending it because we're just saying it just didn't happen. It didn't happen the way you wanted it to do. But let's okay. Here is Musk addressing the controversy. Not exactly directly. He goes, "Can we please retire the calling people an N thing? It didn't work during the election. It's not working now. It's tired, boring, and old material. You've burned out its effect. People don't feel shocked by it anymore. The wolf has been cried too many times." So, there you have it. The future is so exciting, is what he said. But that's it. That's going to be the playbook.
Right.
That's going to be the playbook. They've learned. Apparently, the Democrats have learned no lessons. If the Republicans continue to win and they make progress on policy, and all the Democrats have are name calling and bringing up things that don't exist under anonymous sources, I seriously think the Democratic Party is entering one of the darkest times of its existence. I think it's entering one of those times where I'm talking LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
Vietnam War, bane of its existence, and I don't know if it's going to be able to recover if it doesn't stop doing things like this. I mean,
Right.
here's a guy who is inventing everything in the free world, trying to get to Mars. He doesn't care. I don't think this guy cares one bit about race, religion, or any of that. I don't think it bothers him one bit. All he cares about is destroying the woke mind virus. And he cares about that because it took away his son is alien. One of his sons is alienated from him because of the whole transgender thing and becoming trans and getting puberty blockers and things like that. And so he sees it as a personal mission to end the woke mind virus. And he's going to continue to fight. So I think calling him he's not going to back down. I mean, he's the richest man in the world. What are you going to do? Blackmail him? No. What are you going to do? Threaten him? No. You don't care.
Can't really do much.
There's not much you can do to this guy. So call him all the names you want. But Elon, there we go. Okay. All right. Oh, before we get to birthright citizenship, here we go. American TikTokers get a taste of Chinese censorship as they rush to Red Note. Yep, Chinese censorship brought to you by the Democratic Party and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Anyways, because they're the ones that helped ban this thing. It took only about a day for Chinese censors to crack down on posts from Americans who had flooded onto the Chinese social media app. American TikTok users started downloading Zhongshu, which translates as Little Red Book and is known to Americans as Red Note, a little more than a week ago when it looked like TikTok might face a ban in the U.S. So they are banning, so anything, I guess, if you're gay, don't ban it, don't post it, they're going to ban it. You're going to get the post taken down. Oh, here's a picture. Red Note violation on my first day. It's in Chinese, so you have to get it translated. Watermelon sandwich. Why? Because it's showing just a little bit of cleavage down there in that picture. Just a little bit of cleavage.
Just too much.
Just any is too much for them.
Too much.
Any is too much. I had to realize that not all countries are the same, and every country that has their own set of rules and guidelines. Hoskins said she was a user and got banned. Her video will no longer be circulated because it showed cleavage. She said she wasn't upset and would be more careful next time. Well, that's fine. Personally, I think I would be like, really? It's a little hardcore, but I guess it's okay I guess they're okay with China censoring them. So yes, censors are coming, and anything little. It's a Shanghai-based company has also scrambled to hire English speakers, according to recent job postings on Chinese recruitment websites. Hey, you can go work for Red Note.
I don't speak Chinese.
But you speak English.
Oh, this is true.
One job posting required candidates to be ready to work within 3 days. You can have a job in 3 days. All right. You can have a job working for the Chinese government in 3 days. I mean, they stopped all federal hiring for the U.S. government, so you're not working for them.
This is true.
We're not working.
This is very true. It's not happening.
Red Note didn't block all content, but sought to make it less likely Chinese users would see some American posts familiar with the people familiar with the response. So they're actually trying to keep a lot of American posts away from the Chinese regular citizens, so they don't get encouraged or nothing happens to them. So, anyways, lots of censorship. I think Trump said it today. He would like to see a 50-50 split. Somebody here in the United States buy 50% of it, and the Chinese government can own the other 50. To be a partnership and kind of work things out that way. That'll allow TikTok to really remain. If that's a thing, if that can be a thing, I'm not sure how that would get around the law.
Right.
They'd have to repeal the law, and I'm not sure TikTok really is selling. But he also said, listen, India got rid of TikTok, right?
India got rid of TikTok, but that's because those countries have quite the rivalry when it comes to their border.
Well, that's a good chunk of change. It's a lot of people.
True.
Now you take away Americans.
Well, but at the time, I don't think at the time they had a lot of users. I think it was early on.
Oh, okay.
Kind of early on. This is, I think, 2022. I could be wrong.
Still,
It was years, a couple years ago. It's a big market, but
if TikTok loses their American market, that's
sizable.
That's
very
sizable.
sizable.
I mean, so is TikTok really worth anything at that point afterwards? I mean,
it's definitely worth something.
Worth something, but is it worth the billions and billions that it's reportedly worth? And Trump doesn't think so. So Trump thinks they're going to be really encouraged to really sell. So
Or sell or to at least make a deal.
Make a deal.
To keep it on the website. And I honestly, it's probably better we have it. Just because I think if you look at the way we've treated other American companies when it comes to data, it's pretty unfair.
Yeah.
I don't want to set a dangerous precedent.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, that's really when it comes to these Supreme Court's rulings and even just passing laws, you're setting a precedent always, and I think it's always dangerous if you set one that is either not very obviously specific. I didn't think this is specific enough. I think national security, sure, but I don't think it's specific enough in terms of like the violation they committed.
Yeah, I don't.
Like if they actually did commit something, then yeah, absolutely. But they didn't commit anything.
They haven't committed anything. Oh, here's a good one. A man from the Midwest said Red Note canceled his account and told him he was a Chinese user pretending to be non-Chinese. Although he is in fact American, and the fluent Chinese in his post was courtesy of ChatGPT. After signing up for a new account over the weekend, he posted in English on Sunday, quote, "I am an adjuster and my wife works for Costco. I really don't know why I was banned, but I'm going to use English only now." Well, okay.
I think that happens because they're very strict with how they use internet over there. Yeah. Certain things you can't say.
Well, on Sunday,
regulations.
He had a draft post asking about civil rights movements in China, and he was like, that couldn't be published. Of course it can't be published. No, that's not the civil rights is not a thing in China.
Yeah, no, they don't like that. They don't like that.
Yeah, welcome. I mean, yeah.
I'm not very happy about that.
For all these people, America sucks, right? No, you actually have civil rights here. Let me get a little bit more water here.
No, I don't get it.
Yeah, so the TikTok drama continues. We'll see what Trump has up his sleeve. All right. So as of right now, 22 Democrat-led states sue Trump's birthright citizenship order. Okay, so what this did, Donald Trump, as president, signed into law or signed an executive order ending birthright citizenship. Again, birthright citizenship is something that is, quote unquote, protected by the Constitution under Amendment number 14.
Right. And let's read that. Gringo, you have that ready?
I will. I actually do have that ready.
Oh, Gringo.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm ready for this one. Okay. Let's see here. U.S. Constitution. There we go. Now, this only applies to Section 1 of the 14th Amendment, Sections 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it relates to Section 1, but it's Section 1 that President Trump's order really affects. All right? All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. That is Section 1 of the 14th Amendment. Now, reading it as just a plain text read, many, if not the majority, if not 99% of the people in the world will read that as, if you're born in the U.S.,
you're a citizen.
You're a citizen.
And that's kind of how it's been treated, to be fair. For the most part, it's been treated that way.
That is how it has been, yes, accepted, treated. Yes, you are correct. But is that really what it is?
Yeah, exactly.
I will argue twice in two different spots of this Section 1 where Trump is right, where he has wiggle room, and where birthright citizenship does not mean just because your mama rolled over the border while having labor pains and popped you out in the middle of Texas does not make you a resident of Texas. All right? Or the United States.
Or any border state.
Or any border state. Or any state at all. All right? So, a little history first. You really need to understand what the 14th Amendment is. Now, it was Martin Luther King Day yesterday, so if you don't know what the 14th Amendment is and you celebrate Martin Luther King Day, I feel bad for you because the 14th Amendment allows Martin Luther King to be Martin Luther King. All right?
Right.
So the 14th Amendment is one of the three main amendments that came back after the Civil War. The 14th Amendment was written, or at least this first section was written by John Bingham, congressman from Ohio. Now, this section, according to the author in his time and in his speaking, in his written comments, and in his recorded comments on the floor of the House of Congress, said that this is to protect people and to codify the 1866 Civil War civil rights laws. Now, what does that mean? I just said a lot, and you're probably thinking, what am I, in history class? Okay. So after the Civil War, the Civil Rights Act of 1866 was passed, basically freeing slaves, freeing black people. All right? That's why we fought the Civil War. North won. Everybody gets free. Cool. All right. However, that Act of 1866 was being circumvented by the states because the states have their own powers and their own laws, that if it's not specifically stated as a federal power in the Constitution, it's a power of the state. So you get Reconstruction, and people were being treated horribly. Former slaves were being treated horribly. They weren't being treated as people. Now, if you remember, before the Civil War, there was a case called the Dred Scott case, if you remember that from your high school or your grade school days.
Hopefully you do.
Hopefully you do. This is an important case that was decided in front of the United States Supreme Court. Even though they got it wrong, it's still important. This is why we have the 14th Amendment. Dred Scott is a case of there was a slave that ran away. It was captured in a free state, or he was found in a free state. Didn't want to go back. He claimed that he was in a free state, therefore he was a free person. No, the Supreme Court ruled during the Dred Scott case that slaves weren't people, they were property. This 14th Amendment, along with the 1866 Act, basically reversed that whole decision and said, no. People of color are people. They're not property.
People are people.
Right? People are people.
Pretty
right?
simple.
The 14th Amendment, Section 1, was Bingham's way of saying that the Dred Scott case would never happen again. It's a reaction to that. It's got nothing to do with people rolling over the border, having labor pains, and popping out a kid and saying, give me my green card. That's not what this meant. That's not why this was written. This was to protect free slaves and give them the rights of citizens, of everyday citizens, according to the Constitution, that no state, and sections 2, 3, 4, and 5, if you read through them, and I'm not going to, is basically telling the states, you're out of luck. You are shit out of luck. There's nothing the states can do to take away a freed man's rights. That's what Section 1 is all about. It's not about birthright citizenship. Now, how did we get the birthright citizenship? Well, the Supreme Court. We got to go back to these guys. So,
add a little later.
Let me get to the two problems I have with Section 1 and where this case is going to be argued. The first line says a lot. All persons born or naturalized in the United States. Okay, usually people just stop there and go, oh, born or naturalized, I'm a citizen. No. There's a comma there and an and. There's two requirements. And subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Now, the reason why that's subject to the jurisdiction thereof is because Bingham, as a congressman writing this amendment, was smart enough to know, hey, there are ambassadors that come to the United States with their families. What if one of them has a kid here? Is the ambassador to Russia's kid now a U.S. citizen? No. That's why, because the Russian ambassador has jurisdiction, is subject to jurisdiction to the government of Russia. And therefore his child is subject to the same jurisdiction because a child is controlled as a minor by his parents. That is why that little clause is in there. Otherwise, every ambassador that came over would pop out a kid and be like, all right, it's a U.S. citizen now. And wouldn't be able to be ambassador anymore because they'd have a conflict of interest. So that's why that line was written. That's why Bingham put that in there specifically. So let me ask this question. Let's play devil's advocate, and I know you're going to argue with me, son, and that's good. It's okay.
I'm going to play devil's advocate. Let's get that straight, all right?
All right. You got a pregnant woman. She's in labor. She's running, rolling, being pushed over, rode over the Rio Grande, and put into Texas right over the border. She's in labor. Boom, kid comes out. Okay, let me ask you this. Whose subject of jurisdiction is that woman under? She's not an American. She has no allegiance to America, has never proclaimed allegiance to America, never signed any papers, paid any taxes. Anything. Anything American. Anything that says American. All right? And I'll give you an example. In the contract, my wife went to an embassy, went to get a visa, signed papers, paid money, came over on a flight, declared herself, paid taxes, got documents, all that. Took a citizenship oath. Learned the language. That is allegiance to a jurisdiction. That is being subject to a jurisdiction by giving yourself up. This woman, another woman who rolls over pregnant, she's not given any of those allegiances. She's not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. She's subject to the jurisdiction of the country she came from. So if she traveled from Guatemala through Mexico, up through Mexico, she's a Guatemalan. She's subject to the government of Guatemala. Therefore, I would argue that her son or child or baby or daughter, whatever she had, is subject to her, because minors don't have the rights as adults. Therefore, minors go with their parents, right? So that child is under the subject and jurisdiction of Guatemala and is not a U.S. citizen. Therefore, birthright citizenship is a fallacy. And that's where I would first argue this amendment and first argue where Donald Trump is correct.
Now, of course,
Go
like
ahead.
you said, very good argument, very well articulated, and honestly, if you're reading the lettering, absolutely you're right. The jurisdiction line does actually allow for that wiggle room for interpretation, if not for its actual purpose. The problem is now you have precedent with how it's been interpreted.
Okay.
If you have a majority of a country interpreting the amendment in one way and having it be executed by the federal government in that same manner, it's a little hard to be like, no, we were wrong the whole time, let's go back. Because now it's been accepted and more or less used and practiced in this way. So there's precedent. Of course, there's also room for interpretation about the birthright, the jurisdiction of who? The jurisdiction of the child. Now, of course, you bring up a good point. A child can't really consent to citizenship. However, he can't really consent to citizenship of the other country. That's only for the mother to do. And I mean, according to how we've actually used this amendment, it's hard to say to the child, you can't. You're not American.
Because it's hard, does that make it wrong?
No, not hard isn't like it's hard to say to the kid. I mean, hard isn't to say legally speaking with precedent.
And again, my argument is, so I have to pay taxes so this child can stay here because their parents made an illegal decision?
Sure, their parents made a legal decision, but but would you argue that because if your parent made a legal decision, you should be punished?
So you're okay with separating the child from the parents because the parents?
No, I never said that.
No,
I never said that.
I'd be okay. I'd tell the parents, okay, well, you're here illegally. You've broken the law. You got to go. But you want your child to stay? Fine. How about that? I mean, there's got to be some consequence to breaking the law.
No, there is. I think the consequence should be, and this is where I think we have maybe some standing ground, or maybe a ground we can agree on. There needs to be a change for the parent visa, the green card. I think because if you change this amendment, you're leaving the door open for a lot of interpretation for other amendments. Because now you can argue the Second Amendment is right to bear arms. Well, they wrote that in 17.
We're gonna get into that too, because wait a minute, all these, you know what? For all the Democrats out there and all the liberals that say the Constitution says what it says, you can't change it or interpret it. Wait a minute. They're okay with changing and regulating. How many regulations are put upon the Second Amendment?
Right.
It just says the right to bear arms.
Right. But the problem is now you're opening up the door of, 1791, that was written when we had muskets.
Okay. This was written in 1866 when we're dealing with this, and it was only in subject to slavery.
Right.
I don't see no slaves.
Except for the line that we're discussing, because that was written by that person's still alive, if I'm not mistaken, right? The line we're talking about.
No, the line we're talking about was written in 1868.
Which guy is still alive? We were talking about this previously off stream. Ohio.
No, that guy's not alive. No.
I thought you said he was already...
No. This guy did.
Oh, all right. I thought you said he said something about it.
No.
Who was the guy who said something about it?
No, I just said that's what I just said. He said it because I went back and I read his written comments.
His
recorded comments when he was.
I was under the impression that you said that was later.
No.
All right.
And this is what he specifically was stating.
Right. But here's the problem with that now. It's been practiced differently. It's been interpreted differently. It's been utilized different.
All right.
But so if you go... Now, my problem is now if you open up this door for the 14th Amendment, you open up the door for the other amendments. So 1791, they only had muskets. They only thought you should have means to defend yourself to a reasonable force. One-shot musket. Wait. That would make a lot of gun regulation very different.
I'm not changing the definition of anything. The right to bear arms is right to bear arms.
No. The problem is you're changing how it's utilized because now you're changing the interpretation of the 14th Amendment.
Get to that.
That's the problem.
Let's get to that.
That's your key problem, Gringo. Your problem isn't the writing. The writing's in your favor.
No.
How it's been practiced.
Okay, so we're going to get to how it's been practiced because in 1898, a very important case was settled in the U.S. Supreme Court concerning the interpretation of Section 1 of the Birthright Citizenship. All right? So, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person with its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Awesome. And our citizens of the United States, all that, right?
Right.
So, Wong Kim Ark. Wong Kim Ark was a nice Chinese boy, 21 years old. And his parents were here. They were not U.S. citizens. They had been living in the United States for about 20 years. They had a home. They had a business. They were subjects of the Chinese emperor. They were never U.S. citizens. But they decided to have a kid, and his name was Wong Kim Ark. Now, what happened? Well, the parents decided because during that time, there was a lot of anti-Chinese sentiment in the country. They had all these acts. They called them the anti-Chinese immigration acts,
right,
and all that stuff, right? And so, it was really different. Now, he lived in San Francisco. They lived in San Francisco, right, at the time, which was really being interrupted with these Chinese acts, these anti-immigration acts, which, if you weren't a specific class of person, it really denied you a lot of rights as a Chinese national. So the parents decided, we want to move back to the motherland. We're getting older. We want to live out the rest of our life in the motherland. But Wong, as a 21-year-old man, was like, I kind of dig San Francisco. So what he did is he escorted his parents across the Pacific, got them resettled in China, and a few weeks later, he came back on a boat called the Gaelic. When he arrived in harbor at San Francisco, they denied him access.
Right.
They denied him access because of these Chinese, these acts. And they said because his parents weren't citizens, he was a citizen. So Wong didn't take that lying down. And in 1897, it was argued in front of the Supreme Court. And in 1898, the Supreme Court ruled in Wong's favor, stating he was born in the United States, therefore a citizen of the United States. However, that's not all that they said. You see, again, the devil is in the details. Okay? All right, let's get to it.
What are these details, Gringo?
Because the said Wong Kim Ark, although born in the city and county of San Francisco, state of California, United States of America, is not, under the laws of the state of California and of the United States, a citizen thereof, and the mother and father of said Wong Kim Ark being Chinese persons and subjects of the Emperor of China, and the said Wong Kim Ark being also a Chinese person and a subject of the Emperor of China. That's what the U.S. government said. They said, well, your parents are under the jurisdiction, but he's 21 now. All right? So the ruling was because at the time of his said birth, his mother and father were domiciled residents of the U.S. They had a home. They were paying for a home. They were living in a home. They were keeping it up, right? It wasn't that they just rolled over the border. Okay? So they had a residence and had established and enjoyed a permanent docile therein, said the city and county of San Francisco. And they had, here we go, during all the time of residence, they had a business. They were engaged in the prosecution of business and were never engaged in any diplomatic, this is important, any diplomatic or official capacity under the Emperor of China. So therefore, because the parents were living here. Now, they came legally. They were never citizens. They weren't illegal. That's a very nice. They were never illegal immigrants. They were just immigrants that hadn't gone through the full process to become residents because of those Chinese acts. They had a home. Mm-hmm. They had a business. They paid fees and taxes. They obeyed the law. They weren't working for a foreign entity or a foreign government. Wong was born here, raised under those conditions. He was, in sense, an American.
Right.
And so the Supreme Court ruled. Now, this is the case that they say establishes birthright citizenship. Except, again, I will argue the devil is in the details. Someone who just rolls over the border, pops out a kid,
cannot claim that he is in essence an American. The
context is completely different.
True. When was this case, though?
1898.
How many years has it been since 1898?
Well, 127.
Exactly the problem.
So this
is a Supreme Court decision that should have been utilized prior for reference for this current immigration.
This is what you're arguing about birthright citizenship. This is what established the whole idea and the whole sense of, oh, you're born here, you are a citizen.
Right.
Right? But again...
But you grew up here, there's background to it.
There's background to it, right?
And they include that in the notes. I understand that. And that's correct. And it should have been interpreted that way from there on forward. Unfortunately for you, it wasn't interpreted as so. It was interpreted, he was born here, so you're American.
Okay. I'm going to get to your interpretation question.
Not my interpretation. That's just the practice.
Well, the practice. Okay.
Devil's advocate, that's the practice.
In the 1970s, there was this case called Roe v. Wade that interpreted the law in a certain way that gave women the right for an abortion federally, protected the federal right. How's that interpretation doing today?
Very different. Very different.
So I think that the people who want to keep birthright citizenship, the 22 states, the Democrats are going to use this case as their primary case for established precedent to argue against the executive order. But I think it's going to be it's going to be a 5-4 decision either way.
Right.
It's going to be 5-4 in favor of reinterpreting birthright citizenship, or it's going to be a 5-4 decision to saying to Donald Trump no, and that's going to give him the impetus to try and change the Constitution to a constitutional amendment.
Okay.
That's what I think. But
I think it's fair because what you say makes sense. I mean, either way. But
as you can see, even with precedent, there are multiple avenues of interpretation. And I think someone like Kavanaugh, I think someone like Justice Thomas would be open. Those two at least would be very open to hearing and entertaining those two forms of interpretation.
But you have to present the argument correctly.
Yeah, you have to present the argument. I guarantee you, Justice Sotomayor is a no on this. Right? She's gonna uphold birthright citizenship. I guarantee you that Elena Kagan will uphold birthright citizenship. I guarantee Ketanji John Brown Jackson will uphold birthright citizenship. However, I think within the workings of this case, the established precedent from 1898, I think Trump and his lawyers have an argument. I think if you read, again, go back and read the U.S. Constitution, and then you read John Bingham's arguments for and why they created this specific part, I think there is room for interpretation. Now, whether that happens or not, I don't know. I don't. It's a very uphill battle for Donald Trump to do this, but he did it. It'll be, and you know what? This will be in the U.S. Supreme Court by March. By March, this will be in use because these are going to go through all the circuit courts, all the jurisdictions. They're going to go through like shit through a goose. It's going to get to the U.S. Supreme Court. They're going to have to hear this. Right. And it's not like Donald Trump was writing these his own. They had some very smart lawyers writing these executive orders. Some very, very smart lawyers. And again, the Protecting the American People Against Invasion Act. So, and this is part of what it did, and faithful execution of the immigration laws. And that's what they're arguing. It's not faithful execution. And he goes through a lot of these. The process of asylum seeking, executive departments, civil enforcement priorities.
It's going to be interesting to see how they argue the case from the other side from Trump. I can't imagine that they're not going to use what I kind of just said is like for how many years they've used it this way. It's been interpreted this way. It's been established this way.
Okay, let me ask you this. All right.
I would actually, before you ask that question, would you argue it would be better to put it up to the American people to vote?
No.
For that?
No. And that's not how amendments go.
No, I know it's not how amendments go, but yeah, I asked because there are, I think, some cases where you can put up certain things up to vote for like states and stuff.
No, I think the American people are smart, but you're getting way into the weeds of some law stuff here that is just
because it also says jurisdiction and jurisdiction of what, the state or the country?
Both.
Exactly. Now there's interpretation for states' rights, which is why you could argue it's a state's.
Well, what
is it a state's right to determine who's a citizen of their state?
No, that's what the 14th Amendment specifically takes that power away from the states.
Right, as aforementioned.
So, but that's why when you vote for an amendment, when you change the Constitution, it needs to be 3/4 of the states ratify it, or what is it, 3/4 of the House, and it needs all of this to go through. So it's very hard to do it. But I think in front of the Supreme Court, there's a chance it gets through, but I don't. It's a very, very slim chance. But what he's trying to stop is not what you and I are talking about. What he's trying to stop is like have you heard of the hotels in New York and Los Angeles and Chicago, the birthing hotels? You're illegal. Come here and just give your child. Okay, birth your child.
Yeah, I know that should be stopped. That's
an abuse of the system.
It's an abuse of people, to be honest.
It's abuse of people. It's abuse of taxpayers. It's abuse of everything. It's just an abuse, period. And it needs to stop. And that's what he's trying to stop. That is what he's trying to do. And again, the 14th Amendment, the spirit, the reason why the 14th Amendment was written was for African Americans to have their rights after slavery ended and to codify them in a federal form.
So that, southern states couldn't violate those rights.
Yeah, because they were trying to. Reconstruction sucked.
Right. Jim Crow laws.
All that stuff. This is why this was here. And to make sure that, it also, by the way, the 14th Amendment, no person shall be a senator, representative of Congress, or elector of president or vice president, hold any office, civil or military, under the United States, or under any state, who having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress is enough. Basically, it defines what being a citizen is and what you can do within the government. And it's not the amendment for me. And again, this is what I believe. It's not the amendment that, you roll your pregnant girlfriend over the border through the razor wire so she can pop out a kid and now you can get a free green card. That's not what it's supposed to be or what it should ever be. And I think, you know what? That's common sense. I don't think it's common sense just to allow birthing hospitals, secret birthing hospitals. I don't think that's common sense. I think, again, like that's abuse. I think it's just wrong. It's just wrong on so many levels. But we shall see.
Yeah, we shall see.
I mean, it's already being shut down. The immigration is being shut down with the border app. It's already being shut down in a lot of different ways as far as, there's 2,500 soldiers on the border right now. And there's probably going to be a lot more real soon. It's going to be a real interesting week to see exactly how much more stuff comes out. But he's given all of these orders, these presidential actions, if you go to the website, keeping America safe in aviation, okay? Guaranteeing the state's protection against invasion. Oh, here's the fun one. Restoring names that honor American greatness. This is the one where he renames the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really agree with this one too much.
Why?
I'm a big map person, and that's always been the Gulf of Mexico since it was discovered. And I think we should leave it. Like there's the Sea of Cortez in between Baja, California, and the rest of Mexico. Yeah, we don't change that.
Let's see here. Renaming Mount McKinley. Renaming of Mount McKinley.
That's fine. I think that's great.
Yeah, instead of Denali. Okay. That's fine. So he's orders that. Gulf of America, there it is. The area formerly known as the Gulf of Mexico has long been an integral asset to our once burgeoning nation and has remained an indelible part of America. The Gulf was a crucial artery for America's early trade and global commerce. It's the largest Gulf in the world. The United States coastline along this remarkable body of water spans over 1,700 miles and contains nearly 160 million acres. So basically, the Gulf of Mexico, as for the policy of Donald Trump, is now the Gulf of America. Rock on, buddy. He's all about expansion. Dude, the Secretary of the Interior shall. Dude, I don't think this is what he had in mind when he was taking the job. Secretary of Interior. The Secretary shall subsequently update the GNIS to reflect the renaming of the Gulf and remove all references to the Gulf of Mexico from the GNIS consistent with applicable law.
The GNIS is...
That's what I'm looking for. I think it's the Global National Positioning System. I'm not sure what the let me look up GNIS. Hold on, everybody. I got to know what that is.
I've got to figure this one out.
Geographic Names Information System. It's a government thing. Yeah. The federal and national standard for geographic nomenclature. So if you want to know what something is officially known for by the government, this is it. Oh, what a cool little thing. Look at that. Wow. Search names, domestic name, Antarctic name search tool. Wow, this is actually... Hey, if you're into geography...
I am actually into geography.
The USGS, Science for a Changing World.
My problem is you're changing the names of things.
That's okay. It's okay.
Don't change the Gulf of Mexico. Sorry, I know I'm American too, but that's what it's always been called.
What else did we change?
We changed Mount McKinley.
Mount McKinley, the Gulf of America.
We probably drew some new lines on Canada and probably Greenland.
Nope, that's it. That's all this one is. That's all it is. So, update your maps, everybody. It's the Gulf of America. Where you going sailing today? The Gulf of America. Where you drilling for oil today? The Gulf of America. Oh, that's awesome. Donald Trump. Freaking taking over parts of the map. All right. Oh, here's a fun one. Okay. We have to talk about this one. I mean, I think we said what we needed to say on birthright citizenship. I think it's a legal issue that has a lot of loopholes. I think you know that it's tough. I think
it's a tough one.
It's a tough sell. But
very tough sell.
It's not that he's wrong. It's not that he's wrong.
Nope.
Okay. Here's an important one for you and I because we live south of the border. Designating cartels and other organizations as foreign terrorist organizations and specially designated global terrorists. Executive order. Oh, damn. We about to have some fighting. Designated cartel. Wow. By the authority vested in me as president, by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, including all these other places, this order creates a process by which certain international cartels, quote, and in parentheses, but the cartels, and other organizations will be designated as foreign terrorist organizations, consistent with Section 219 of the INA, or specially designated global terrorists, consistent with IEEPA and Executive Order 13224, September 23rd, 2001. Oh, damn, we're going back to a 9/11 EO. Blocking property. Woohoo! Here we go, baby. Sometimes you got two big dogs in a fight, and they've been circling each other. It's just time to ring the bell and get it on. The U.S. Special Forces versus the largest terrorist organizations in the world, which are the cartels. International cartels constitute a national security threat beyond that posed by traditional organized crimes, with activities encompassing convergence between themselves and a range of extra-hemispheric actors. So they're international. Basically, what these things get... okay, here we go. All right, so what exactly does this mean?
So if we're not mistaken...
Yeah.
Is it what we discussed before, right?
Yeah.
So essentially... we might go in and start, messing things up pretty badly.
Okay, here's the meat of the matter. The policy. It is now the policy of the United States to ensure the total elimination of these organizations, their presence in the United States, and their ability to threaten the territory, safety, and security of the United States through their extraterritorial command and control structures, thereby protecting the American people and the territorial integrity of the United States. This is authorizing that wherever these things are, they don't care about the sovereignty of whatever country these things are lying in. They're coming after them. This is basically authorizing the DOD, the Department of Homeland Security, the Attorney General, all of that, Department of Treasury, that they're free game. They have there's no rules of sovereignty in this case. And what it means is these things get they're going to get the attention of the Tier 1 Special Forces units of the Pentagon. Implementation. Within 14 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of State shall take all appropriate action in consultation with the Secretary of the Treasury, the Attorney General, Secretary of Homeland Security, and the Director of National Intelligence, which is Tulsi Gabbard, to make a recommendation regarding the designation of any cartel or other organization described in Section 1 of this order as a foreign terrorist organization consistent with 8 U.S.C. And that basically means they're going to go after their bank accounts anywhere. They're going after the money.
Swiss. If they want, the thing is, Swiss is going to be hard.
Yeah.
Swiss bank accounts, I don't know if people here are aware, they don't tell you who they have an account with. If you call a Swiss bank, you actually have to know beforehand. In order to get that information, means you've got to be told about that information prior.
They're gonna get their money.
That money, they're gonna try to get their money. It's really, really hard to get into Swiss banks. They're very notorious for that. They don't give their information out to nobody.
Oh no!
You've got to know.
Oh no! I forgot to read Section B.
What's Section B?
Section B, baby.
Is it a good? I can't see over here, Gringo.
Within 14 days of the date of this order,
oh God,
the Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security shall take all appropriate action in consultation with the Secretary of State to make operational preparations regarding the implementation of any decision I make to invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. That didn't say 1798. We just know.
It's the Alien Sedition Act, no?
It's the Alien Sedition Act. In relation to the existence of any qualifying invasion or predatory incursion against the territory of the United States by a qualifying actor and to prepare such facilities as necessary to expedite the removal of those who may be designated on this order. For those of you who don't know, the Alien Enemies Act is part of the Alien Seditions Act of 1798. These were highly controversial acts. In fact, if you read them, they are highly unconstitutional and very, very un-American, except for one, the one that remains. 3 of them, Thomas Jefferson didn't re-sign. He let them what they call sunset. They ended in Jefferson's presidency. He said, this is BS. I ain't dealing with this. Is crap. Right? It basically made it illegal to say anything against the government. It was total censorship, total disregard for the First Amendment, and all that. But the one that remains, that he is re-invoking, is the Alien Enemies Act, which basically gives the president, and the president alone, the authority to just point at somebody and say, that's a non-citizen, and they're an enemy of the federal government, they're an enemy of the United States, and gives them the authority just to say, pick them up and throw them the hell out. Put them back in the country they came from. That is the Alien Enemies Act in a nutshell. And again, it's from 1798. It's the only one of the 4 that have survived. And President Trump is re-invoking it. We're talking from the time of John Adams, second president, or even 1798. Was that Washington was still in office in 1798? You got to look that up for me now.
I think he was still.
Was it? Yeah, Washington probably left these in place. Adams left them. They probably passed during the end of Washington's term.
Let's see. What's your guess, Gringo?
I'm going to go Washington was still in office.
Wrong.
It was Adams?
John Adams.
It was John Adams.
1797 to 1801.
Good old Boston patriot John Adams.
He's got a beer.
That's Sam Adams.
I know.
Still. Boston,
same family.
Same family.
Come on, Gringo. Give me
beer, baby. This is basically saying if I want to shoot somebody, I'll shoot somebody. That's what this is saying. That is what this is saying. So, okay. So to anybody who's got any thoughts of like, oh, we're going to invade Mexico. That's not how this is going to happen. Well, technically, you are going to invade Mexico. There are these big, beautiful planes, as Trump would say. They're called drones, Reaper drones. And if you've never seen one in person, I have. I was literally driving down by by an Air Force base. Well, it was what was it? What was the name of the airport near Baybrook Mall? I can't remember. Elgin or something like that.
Yeah, Elgin.
Yeah, something like that. And it's basically used for NASA and Air Force. NASA's right there as well. It's where I used to work near that area. So I'm driving to work one afternoon, and I literally look up in the sky and over a civilian area, and they must have been doing it, and I hope it was for training purposes. I see this thing, and I say, "Oh, that's what a Reaper drone looks like in person." The thing is freaking massive. It's scary. It is like, I'm like, okay, well, that's the most frightening thing I've seen in years, if not ever, because it could just drop a payload and take out anything it wants right there. So they must have been flying it, landing it, practicing with it. Either that, I just looked up in the sky when I saw it. I said, "Who are we looking for, boys?" I was like, literally, like what's going on?
What are we doing?
I said, what's, I said, I'm just going to go to work, park my car, go inside, and forget what I saw. Imagine 50 of these passing over the border into Mexico. Good luck. Good freaking luck. To anybody in their way. That's what's going to happen.
Not a fun time.
But it's good. You know what? Like I said, sometimes you got two heavyweights that have been circling each other for a long time. Sometimes you just got to ring the bell. And this is a fight. And the Mexican president has already said she's not doing anything about the drug problem because he's quote unquote said
it's an American problem.
It's an American problem.
Which is like the worst thing you can say on TV because that just gave the United States the green light.
Yeah, because Trump's like, "Oh, it's an American problem.
Okay,
good. We're America. We'll handle it.
We'll solve it." That's not. You don't want us to solve your problem.
Good. You just basically said to Donald Trump, "Green light," and she wasn't meaning to because she really doesn't like Donald Trump. She tries to. She's a very smart person academically. Claudia Sheinbaum, I think. Sheinbaum, first president of Mexico ever to be a woman. All right, she gets all those flowers and accolades. She's got all these degrees and whatnot. She's playing checkers. He's playing chess. That's it. And when it comes to politics and trying to deal, just because you're book smart, don't mean you're smart. I get degrees. It don't mean I'm smarter than anybody else out there. In fact, there's plenty of people that I've met without degrees that are a hell of a lot smarter than I am. So, and she basically wanted to say, and she wanted to kind of thumb her nose and give us the finger and say, no. The drug problem is only there because Americans have a drug problem. Okay, that's one side of the coin. I think we could sit down and if you wanted to be reasonable about it and say, yeah, you know what? We have a drug problem and we need to address that. But also, you have a drug production problem. You have a problem with, sending the stuff over the border, not stopping it because it's all about hugs, not drugs here. Or basically, the Mexican government doesn't have the power to do anything against these organizations. They don't. They haven't. Their policy is basically like, please don't hurt too many people. We'll let you do what you do. Just don't hurt too many people. That's literally the policy. And meanwhile, they all fight each other out, and innocent people get hurt in the middle, and it's a mess. But the Mexican government has zero. I mean, people are like, well, they captured El Chapo, right? Chapo?
El Chapo, yeah.
Yeah, guess what? That organization grew stronger and more violent in a heartbeat. That guy was actually regulating the thing. We deregulated it. It became a
well. He wasn't actually technically the full boss, but that's gets complicated.
He wasn't. But this is so. Anyways, you want to thumb your nose at President Trump, and you want to say that you're playing his game. You're not. You're not. You basically, you step back and realize, oh crap, I got to reset this because you just gave him a green light. Then that. And here's his response. And we knew this was coming. Some people didn't believe it. Some people in Mexico we talked to, including your mother, she didn't believe that this was going to happen. She said, no, he's not going to do that. I said, yeah, he is.
Right.
And he did. There it is. He just did it. Unbelievable. All right, back to presidential actions. I mean, there's so many of these, and it's so entertaining. First of all, by the way, can we just say this? Isn't it great to have a president who talks to the press?
It's fun. It's nice.
It's nice. He stands
complete
up there,
sentences.
Yeah, takes questions, gives answers. You may not like his answers. He may evade some questions, but that's politics, right? But isn't it great? Like, he's already answered more questions from reporters in 48 hours than Joe Biden has in the last 6 months.
Right. Sounds about right.
Yeah. And it's amazing. It's amazing to have somebody there. It just feels good to be an American again. It just does. It just does. Oh, here's the crappy part. Reforming the federal highway. Well, crappy and not crappy. All right. These all had to happen. reforming the federal hiring process and restoring merit to government service. Yeah, please. Please, please, please. All right? The DEI woke bullshit is out. Get it out. See you later. All right? It's merit-based. The content of your character, your merits, what you've done. He did put a freeze on all hiring, federal hiring right now, so there'll be no more hiring because everything's so bloated.
Right.
It needs to be cut. And,
they have offices they haven't used in how long?
there are full-blown buildings that we pay billions and billions and billions of dollars for every year as taxpayers that aren't used. Yet they continue to refurnish them. I did a video, about a month ago on the budget that was passed in the pork. There are billions of dollars being spent of our taxpayer money to refurbish, to remake over, to upgrade all the furniture in these office buildings that the government leases that we pay for on an annual basis. They're empty.
Right.
No one goes to them. And they're for Department of State, Department of Interior, Department of Treasury, you name it, it's there. They're all over the country. Billions of dollars in leases for buildings we don't use. That no one uses. The electricity's on, the water's on, the furniture's, the only thing that's there is some security, just make sure the building don't get broken into.
Pretty much.
Just one guy walking around with a flashlight.
There's some buildings are just one person, one floor essentially.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's insane. So yes. And finally ending DEI. Thank God. Thank God. Listen, I'll say this because I had to execute a lot of DEI at Apple. And every time I had to execute a DEI decision, and I'd say, okay, well, I can't tell the people that they're not getting the job because they're white. They would tell me lie. If it's such a great idea, why do you have to lie about it? So go screw people who like DEI. All right? If it's so great of an idea, why do you have to lie about why you're doing it? All right? And literally, that's a true story. All right? I actually had to tell people they couldn't have a job, and I was told to lie to them because the people above me told them, we can't hire any more white people. Okay. Quote, unquote, the actual words we're using, we can't hire any more blonde, blue-eyed white people. Okay. But they're qualified for the job, and they're the only ones who want it. But we can't hire them, so we're just going to leave the position unfulfilled.
Don't you know you can't hire them?
So
Gringo.
Can't hire them. All right? So that's part of the reason why I left. Because I couldn't do it. Can't do it. If you're going to ask me to lie, then I can't.
I think bringing back merit is good for the long term.
Yeah.
I do think there should still be some considerations for certain backgrounds. In sense, okay, not because you go Harvard means you're going to be smarter than someone.
No,
you know what I mean?
No.
But that sometimes I think sometimes the name of the degree gets utilized in
not in this administration.
I hope not. Experience beyond just school.
Yeah.
I think is also important.
Yeah.
But also just for young Americans who've just got out of school, like myself.
Yeah.
I think should be given an opportunity more often.
I think so. I think that'd be great, I remember Ted Cruz having a hearing on DEI. He had the head of DEI for the State Department. And they had an email that said to all the hiring managers, we will not be hiring any white males, heterosexual males, people with disabilities, or people of the wrong faith. They meant Christians. He had this internal email. And the person for DEI just sat there like, I've never seen that email before in my life. Well, no, but the email was probably written because you mentioned that stuff to your hiring managers.
Or because you wrote it.
Or because you wrote it and you're just lying in front of Congress. I don't know.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Wouldn't surprise me either.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's great. Which is, again, that's not how things are supposed to work. Not how things are supposed to work. Oh, here's a fun one. Hey, defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government.
Your favorite.
Woohoo! Let's see. Let's get to the policy. Policy and definitions. It is the policy of the United States to recognize two sexes, male and female. Now, see how he said sex, not gender? Because gender is a construct. Yes, I agree. Yes, you want to say you have a different gender, but there's only two sexes, male and female. These sexes are not changeable and are grounded in fundamental and incontrovertible reality. And that's the one thing that Democrats and progressives really hate. These blue hairs out there screaming. They hate reality.
What's wrong with reality?
Because
Gringo?
when they look in the mirror...
Gringo, what is wrong with reality?
You know why they hate reality? Because when they look in the mirror, they hate themselves.
Sounds about right.
And that's reality for them. And so they got to hate themselves, and they can't hate themselves in a truthful way or make changes or do anything. So they want to hate other people. They want to do that. Under my direction, the executive branch will enforce all sex protective laws to promote this reality. And the following definitions shall govern all executive interpretation of an application of federal law. Sex shall refer to an individual's immutable biological classification as either male or female. Sex is not a synonym for, it does not include the concept of gender identity.
That's right. I mean, I can't believe we had to write an executive order for this.
Yeah. Like,
if
you're born a male, you're a male. Chop off whatever you want, turn it inside out, stick it inside up, turn it into a banana peel. Don't care. If you're born a male, you're a male.
I mean, when they dig you up in like 5 years, when you're just bones, they're going to be like, that's a man.
That's a man, dude. Just by the way.
Then they're going to find like the clothing and they're going to be like, but why is there a dress?
Yep. Women or woman and girls or girl shall remain adult and juvenile human females, respectively. Men or man and boys or boy shall mean adult and juvenile human males, respectively. Female means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the large reproductive cell. Male means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the small reproductive cell. Gender ideology replaces the biology category of sex with an ever-shifting concept of self-assigned gender identity, permitting the false claim that males can identify as and thus become women and vice versa, and requiring all institutions of society to regard this false claim as true. Now, when I worked for Apple, if I misgendered somebody, by the way, if you're a biological male that chopped off your pee-pee and now you're a woman, I didn't misgender you if I call you a man. You misgendered yourself by chopping off your dick. Anyways. Gender ideology includes the idea that there is a vast spectrum of genders that are disconnected from one sex. Gender ideology is internally inconsistent in that it diminishes sex as an identifiable or useful category, but nevertheless maintains that it is possible for a person to be born in the wrong sex body. So
this is like something you're with.
This basically it just says it's full of shit. And if I was an Apple, if I misgendered somebody, I would get fired. You know, I wish I was in Apple right now and I just misgendered and I got fired. I'd just sue everybody or whatever. Anyways, so that would be fun. It'd be like, it's just you know what? Thank you. Tired of being afraid to misgender somebody. Just like that. You ever see that video? It's ma'am, like the person in the game store or whatever, this little store. It's ma'am. No, you're a guy, dude. Oh, you gotta love him. Okay, he established Doge. By the way, Vivek Ramaswamy left.
Really?
Yeah, he's out.
I saw him on the at the inauguration.
He quit.
He quit?
He's gonna go run for governor of Ohio.
No, yep. I don't think so.
Yeah, that's the rumor.
But why did he quit?
To go run for governor of Ohio. I really think that's what it is. The America First policy, Secretary of State. Basically, let me put this in a nutshell because I saw it in action today. If it doesn't benefit the United States, either in monetary, policy, or security concerns, if it doesn't meet any one of those three criteria, we ain't doing it. So that's Marco Rubio's new thing. He has three things. You think of it three ways. Does it benefit us from a national security standpoint? Does it benefit us from an economic standpoint? Does it benefit the United States from a policy standpoint? And if it doesn't do one of those three, Marco Rubio ain't going to do it. They just say, no, thank you. What is this one? Protecting the United States. This one I didn't read. Let's see here. Where's the policy? We got to get to the policy. These are additional measures. Evaluate, recommend. So this is just a recommend one. This is, this is more immigration stuff. It is the policy of the United States to protect its citizens from aliens who intend to commit terrorist attacks, threaten our national security, espouse hateful ideology, or otherwise exploit the immigration laws for malevolent purposes.
So more immigration. Just more border, basically, keep it safe. Basically, you're not supposed to be here. Get out of here.
Yeah, if you're from a state sponsor of terrorism, then you're not allowed in.
That should be basic. This is not basic.
No, it's not.
This should have been basic.
Under the previous administration, it was like, come on in. Do you have any terrorists on the watch list we caught at the border?
I can imagine.
Over the last 4 years, trying to cross the border, and that's the thing. Those are the only ones we caught. They're not the ones that we didn't catch, which probably 10 times more. Dude, this thing just goes on and on. Dude, he just. Oh, we're going to drill. We're going to drill. Just a lot of organizational stuff. Declaring a national energy emergency. Restoring accountability for career senior executives. Basically giving the ability to say, hey, you're not doing your job, and I know this is the government, and you're supposed to just sit there and be able to do nothing and retire later on a fat pension, but it ain't going to happen anymore, so you're fired. It's The Apprentice. You're fired.
You're fired.
Dude, he's going to fire like 1,000 people in the next 3 or 4 days. He's already got like a list of 1,000 positions. He's like, these are unnecessary, and you're gone. See you later.
It's going to be crazy. I mean, there's got to be some process, though, due process for some of those positions.
No.
Some of them.
What is this one? This one I didn't read. Promoting beautiful federal civic architecture. What is this?
Oh, make our cities look good. Enough of this modern building looking crap. I want cool looking buildings. You realize how depressing our cities look in comparison to European cities?
This is true. All right, so within 60 days, recommendations to advance the policy that federal public buildings should be visually identifiable as civic buildings and respect regional, traditional, and classical architectural heritage in order to uplift and beautify public spaces and ennoble the United States and our system of self-government. You know, this is something we talked about the other day, or yesterday during the inauguration. Before you jumped on, I was talking about Washington, D.C., because they had all these overhead shots of Washington, D.C. Let me tell you something. Washington, D.C. is gorgeous.
Right.
The buildings, the architecture, whatnot. Not when you get into the outside area where the Capital One Arena is. You're in the slums there. You're in a real world.
The rough parts.
The rough parts, like where my hotel was.
Where people live.
Where people live, right? I said to your mother, we got a nice hotel. It's right. It's like a mile away from the White House. It's great. And I'm like, it's right next to Capital One Arena. I go, how bad could it be? Man, we walked down that road. We walked down that main street. It was halfway through Chinatown, halfway not in Chinatown. I was like, we're going to die going to our hotel.
This is not looking like a place where people should live.
Dude, there's a CVS there. You had to walk through like 30 homeless people and drug addicts just hanging out. You're like, I'm going to get killed just walking in here. You walk in there, they have everything locked up. I'd like a bottle of Crest, please, because I like to brush my teeth. It's like, first of all, inflation at the time was crazy. So it was like $9 for Crest toothpaste. And you had to wait for someone to come unlock it. And I'm like, this is silly. But yes, but once you get to the monuments are beautiful. The monuments are gorgeous. They're so uplifting. It's just amazing. So good.
Yeah, I want our capital cities to look nice. I mean,
yeah.
Boston does a good job. We kept our old buildings. They look pretty. I mean, what capital cities are kind of disappointing to go to?
Yeah.
Think about them. Give me a list, Gringo.
Capital cities that are beautiful to go to?
No, or disappointing.
Oh, disappointing.
Give me 3 that are disappointing, and then give me 3 that are beautiful for states.
Oh, for states. Oh my God, Albuquerque was a pit. Albuquerque, I was like, I couldn't wait. We drove into Albuquerque. We stopped to wash the car. We looked around and we said, "No, we gotta go. We gotta go." That's Santa Fe is the capital. Albuquerque is not the capital, so that's not a capital. Okay, so Albuquerque, you get a pass. You still a shithole.
Still a shithole. Just it gets a pass.
I always loved Albany's just a pit. Albany's. You almost lived in Albany, by the way.
Really?
Yeah. I was going to get...
Why would you do that to me?
Well, I had a choice to transfer. I could go to Albany. I could go to Kalamazoo, Michigan. I could go to someplace in Iowa and someplace in Illinois. And Albany was going to be the place I chose because I'm like, well, it's closest to New England and whatnot. It's the capital. But then I went there. And that's where I did my final interview. And I got the choice. They really wanted me to go to Albany. And I was like, no.
Not a fan of Albany.
No. Oh, no.
What is there to do in Albany?
Nothing.
What does it look? Does it look kind of cute in some parts or no?
You remember the bad parts of Worcester?
Yeah.
Picture that all over.
My favorite parts.
Just all over.
Oh.
All over.
So it's like my home.
You ever been to Roxbury in Boston?
Yes.
Yeah, picture that all over.
Oh, that's horrible.
It's all over. That's definitely one of them. Wasn't a big fan of Tallahassee in Florida.
Tallahassee needs help.
That needed help. And then Atlanta.
You don't like Atlanta?
No, I wasn't really impressed with Atlanta. Sorry to anybody who lives there, but it really wasn't. But yeah. Okay, here's one that we really need to actually talk about because I have some problems with this one. Restoring the death penalty and protecting public safety.
Okay. What's wrong with this?
The purpose. Capital punishment is an essential tool for deterring and punishing those who would commit the most heinous crimes and acts of lethal violence against American citizens. My problem is you can never be 100% sure 100% of the time. And you might be executing someone who's innocent. Because it's happened in the past. There's been people freed from death row after the discovery of DNA evidence. When DNA wasn't, they were convicted when DNA wasn't really a thing. Have you ever heard of the Project Innocence or the Innocence Project? It was one of the lawyers for O.J. Simpson created this whole thing where he would go and he would use DNA to see if these pre-DNA cases, death penalty cases, would hold up. And they didn't. And there's been many people that were freed from death row that didn't belong on death row.
But now we have DNA.
Yeah, but you can still be wrong.
Sure, but it's very rare now. For the most part. It's not super rare, but
okay. Let's say
I'm not saying the death penalty is a great thing, people, but it should be applied to people who do heinous things.
I look at it this way: I'm pro-life, and I can't be pro-life halfway. God's the only person who gets to kill people.
True, but you talk about tax money. You want to spend tax money to keep people alive?
It's cheaper to keep them alive than to actually execute them.
Well, because you keep them on death row for so long.
Because of the appeals process. Yes,
right. Here's what we should do.
Get rid of the appeals process?
No, I'm joking. I was making a joke, but...
You're vicious, man.
What's wrong with
me? Man, you just want people rolling over the border, having babies, and then killing
That's not what I want.
And killing other people.
No. I'm not an anarchist. Sometimes it's just nice to watch the world burn.
Okay. Well,
no, I'm joking.
It's just this is where I land personally. I can understand why some people do want this capital punishment. I do understand the whole idea of a deterrent. I do understand that it should be, but my wish is that there was, and I guess that's why the appeals process is there. Just the idea that we've been wrong about it in the past and we've executed people who are innocent. Again, say there's 1,000 people on death row federally, and 1% is wrong. That's 10 people that are going to die that don't deserve to. Again, that's where I fall. I go, there's always human error. You could never, ever eliminate human error, ever. Ever. There's no such way to eliminate human error.
Sure.
Unless you have maybe artificial intelligence. Hey, maybe AI can start doing cases for us. Imagine AI gets so smart we don't need detectives anymore. It's like the butler did it.
Your mother.
No. Again, I'm not the father of a victim.
Yeah, but
I can only imagine there are some fathers, parents out there that would disagree with me because their anger. But that's why parents of victims of crimes don't have rights in this type of process. Why it's a jury of peers, why it's a judge, and all that. So, but it is what it is. But I'm not big on the restoring of the death penalty. But again, I claim to be pro-life. I have to be. If I'm going to be pro-life, I have to be pro-life all the way. Yeah, it's just the way I am.
I respect it. No, I do think there are obviously concerns with the death penalty. And of course, the process is obviously long if you even get sentenced for it. And there's always the risk of being wrong with it, and that's a lot. That's a very fair argument.
Yeah, he signed a lot, dude. This thing is going. By the way, I love how fast they changed over the website.
Yeah, they were pretty quick about that. Pretty efficient. Hopefully, that's how they are about.
I haven't read this one yet. Oh my god, putting people over fish.
No.
Stopping radical environmentalism to provide water to Southern California.
Is that what he signed? That's something he signed?
That's the name of the executive order. Putting people over fish. I love it. Oh, that's why I love him.
That might be my new favorite executive order.
Oh, my God. I hereby direct the Secretary of Commerce and Secretary of the Interior, in consultation with the heads of the other departments and agencies of the United States as necessary, to immediately restart the work from my first administration by the National Marine Fisheries Service, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Bureau of Reclamation, and other agencies to route more water from the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta to other parts of the state for use by the people there who desperately need a reliable water supply. Oh my God, then he uses it to rip into the governor of California. Dude, he has an executive order that spends a paragraph, its largest paragraph, ripping into Governor Newsom. How awesome is that? Even says the delta, smelt, and other species of fish. Oh my God. The recent deadly, historically destructive wildfires in Southern California underscore why the state of California needs a ride. I just, sorry. You know what? Only President Trump would say putting people over fish in an executive order. And you know what? Yeah.
I think he's the only president who said
fucking
fish,
awesome.
People over fish. I want to meet the president who says fish over people.
Yeah.
That's a fun president.
You had him before.
You
had him a few days ago.
No. He didn't write that though. I want one who's like crazy. No, I don't actually want one like that.
Where are you going? What is
No,
this?
it's my
Dude, he's got so many. He's got so many executive orders on immigration. I mean, he wasn't. Oh, we're going to build a wall. We're going to deter and prevent the entry of illegal aliens into the United States. Detaining to the maximum extent authorized by law aliens apprehended on suspicion of violating federal or state law. Here we go. Removing promptly all aliens who enter or remain in violation of federal law. That's the deportation. By the way, I've seen no videos on the deportation. I can't wait to go looking for those.
Can't wait to see those videos.
Yeah, knock knock.
Is that like your version of watching the Black Friday videos from like Walmart and
Yeah,
Target?
basically, it's going to be just like that. It's just, oh, dude, have I ever told you this story about the immigration raid at my Target?
No.
Oh, so again, I was working overnight, and most of my crew was illegal because they all had fake numbers that passed the system, and there's nothing I could do. I'm like, okay, they were all 98% of them for Brazil, and they were all illegal, right? So it's like 2:00 in the morning, and there's like 50 of us, like it's just me and like 49, 48 people from Brazil all working overnight. I'm trying to run them. I don't speak Portuguese. They don't speak English. It was a real fun time for me. And all of a sudden, immigration came through the front door. They just blasted through the front door. It was crazy, and everybody ran. They caught some, but everybody ran. I had to call my boss. I go, we just got raided by immigration, and there's product everywhere. Like, we're not ready to open in 6 hours. We just have to, it was a friggin' nightmare. It was a nightmare. It really was. It was crazy. But looking back, I'm like, okay, I guess somebody called and said, hey, there's a lot of illegal work going on here. But
That gringo over there is in charge of them.
Yeah.
Do they ask you questions?
Yeah.
What do they ask you? Like, you know, Jose?
Do you know all these people? I said, they're all my workers, but
I guess not anymore.
I guess, I'm like, I don't do all the verification. They just give them to me. I train them how to do a job. That's it. They're like, okay. Like, it wasn't their first rodeo. It wasn't their first rodeo.
What do you mean?
I'm sure they've gone to other stores where they had people like me just standing there going, I don't know what's going on, but okay. But yeah, oh my God. Oh, what is this? So now I know why Liz Cheney and the Jan 6 committee got their pardons. Holding former government officials accountable for election interference and improper disclosure of sensitive governmental information. Basically, he's got an executive order to go and review everything at the CIA. Let's see. Before being issued, this letter was sent to the CIA Pre-Publication Classification Review Board, the body typically assigned to formally evaluate the sensitive nature of documents prior to publication. Oh, this talks about Hunter's laptop. Oh, in the closing weeks of the 2020 presidential campaign, at least 51 former intelligence officials coordinated with the Biden campaign to issue a letter discrediting the reporting that President Joseph R. Biden's son had abandoned his laptop at a computer repair business. Signatories of the letter falsely suggested that the news story was part of a Russian disinformation campaign. Oh, this is the one where he takes away the security clearance of all 51 of those fuckers. Look, he names them all.
Yeah, he lists them all by name.
He lists them all by name.
He's like, you don't get clearance. You don't. You want money? No, can't happen. Sorry.
Oh, he lists them all. Let's see it. James Clapper, Leon Panetta. They all. Oh, you know how much money they're gonna lose? And the reason why I say money, because if they don't have security clearance, what's the point of having them as special guests to the CNN or MSNBC or whatever news story they're going to go on?
I'm a fan of having special guests now.
Well, I mean, Andrew Lippman, Mosman, dude, there's some big names on this list.
Gringo, what's wrong with special guests?
There's some big names on this list.
They can still be special guests. They just can be special unqualified guests.
They're going to be, well, they're not qualified to talk about anything now because they don't have any
insight. My point.
Who's this? Mark Polymeropoulos. That's a hell of a name, buddy. That's a hell of a name. But yeah, look at him. Up. There he is down the bottom. John R. Bolton.
You're surprised Bolton's on there.
I'm not surprised. He hated Bolton.
You're surprised Bolton.
No, I'm not surprised. No, that guy was a warmonger. That guy was pushing Trump to invade Iran.
Sounds like a fun time.
Like, why did we get rid of this guy? Like, we should not be pushing to invade anybody. Um, sanctions were working just fine. He wanted war. He's the one that helped. He and Cheney are the two people that convinced George W. to go to war in Iraq. So, goodbye to these guys. Good. They lied to the American people. These are 50 liars right here. 50 liars. Liars. They're all they lied. And it's now officially in an executive order because the laptop was real. It wasn't Russian disinformation.
It existed. They still do they not have it anymore? Did they get rid of it?
They have it. The FBI has it.
They can't get rid of it legally.
No.
Also because it was recorded and someone found and leaked some files.
Yeah. His name's Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah, Rudy.
Go
Rudy.
The first thing Giuliani did when he got the laptop was like, I'm making a copy of this.
That's right. I forgot.
Yeah.
Go Rudy. It's like a football game.
Yeah. It's like, Rudy, you can do it.
Too bad that team lost yesterday.
Oh, Notre Dame.
Poor Notre Dame.
You were just outmatched. But yeah. I mean, the whole country was lied to. The New York Post, one of the nation's leading papers, was censored.
Because it was the only one that was reporting on it.
Because they were reporting on this. People were censored on Facebook. They were censored on Twitter. They were censored in the mainstream media. They were censored on Google, YouTube, everywhere. There was just a massive censor. And Mark Zuckerberg came up and he was talking to Joe Rogan. He's like, literally, I had no choice. He goes, I would get calls from the Biden administration and people within the Biden camp, and they would be screaming and yelling at us to do what they wanted us to do. And we had no choice. Like, I mean, yeah, we're rich, we're Facebook. The federal government's a whole other beast. You want the weight of the federal government coming down on you? You can't fight that. Only one man can fight that. He's now in charge of the federal government. His name's Donald Trump. He's done it successfully a bunch of times.
Very nice.
Now he's very nice. Now he's in charge of it. Okay, that was a fun one. That was a very dude. It's an executive order party. Let me tell you.
It's all a good time right now,
dude. This is just
crazy.
America first. America first. Hiring freeze. Yeah, this is a hiring freeze we talked about. Return to in-person work. All the blue hairs are going to cry. All the latte sippers are going to cry. Oh, I want to work from home in my pajamas. Oh, I don't want to go to the office. Here you go. Hey, listen. If I was in the physical shape to be able to take one of these jobs,
welcome back to the office,
I would
boys.
be in the office early, stay late, and I'd be there 5 days a week. Get to work, you freaking. Just get to work. Taking advantage of everything. Because you know half the time you're not at work, you're sitting at home on your couch, fucking shopping on Amazon, or friggin' watching Netflix.
What's wrong with that, Gringo? You can't relax and work at the same time?
No.
On policy?
You cannot.
Misspelled the president's name. That's all right.
You cannot.
It's all right.
It's okay. Restoring freedom of speech and ending federal censorship. Thank God. Flying the flag of the United States at full staff on Inauguration Day. They weren't going to do this. Because Carter had died, so they were going to keep it at half staff. Do you know how insulting that is? It's like the country's not in mourning. We're electing a president. We're inaugurating a new president. And the Democrats wanted to keep it at half staff as a symbol of mourning. The country's in mourning. You know what? You buried Carter. Put the flag back up. So, and here's all the sub-cabinet positions on the first ones. But yeah, damn, that's a lot. He did a lot. That's not all that he's done. That's not all that Trump has done. It's amazing how much he's gotten done in these first few days. First two days, right? Absolutely, my favorite is that he talks to the press, right? They talk about transparency. He talks to the press. Again, I can't say it enough how happy I am to have a president that actually talks to the press, actually answers questions. You know, everything. He just he stood there today. He didn't have to. He's got like the CEOs of tech companies right behind him, and he took 20, 30 minutes of questions on every range of topic. No notes, no little cheat sheets in his pocket, no stumbling, no. He knew exactly where he was at all times. He didn't fall asleep standing up. It's like, oh, you know who the president is. You now, because guess what? I don't think Joe Biden was president. Speaker Johnson came out and he did an interview. Speaker Johnson came out and he did an interview where he's like, yeah, I went to go talk to Joe. I went to go talk to the president. He's talking about Joe Biden. And they had just passed an executive order banning the sale of natural gas, which Speaker Johnson's from Louisiana, so a lot of natural gas comes from his state. It's a lot of money. Banning the sale of a certain amount of natural gas to Europe.
Right.
It was a signed executive order by Joe Biden. And the speaker had a few minutes with him by himself, and he says, well, I asked the president, Mr. President, Joe, why did you do that? He goes, I didn't do that. And he goes, no, Speaker Johnson, you signed the executive order. It's law. And Joe Biden goes, oh, no, I must have just signed something to study if we did that. And Speaker Johnson's like, no, Joe, I'll go out to your secretary. I'll have her print up the executive order so you can look at it and refresh your memory of what you signed and what you did. And then Speaker Johnson realized in that moment, he doesn't know what he's signing. He's just being given things to sign by people who are really in charge.
Do you think he's like thinking about that Delaware vacation home and he's like, yeah, you signed this. I'll be with you at the beach soon, honey, Jill.
No, I don't think he was thinking at all.
I don't think he was thinking at all. But my point is,
yeah,
trying to be funny here. But it's not very funny.
It's not like, who was giving him stuff to sign? Was it Kamala? Was it other aides? People that were never elected in the first place?
Probably aides who had connections or were working for the other parts of the DMC.
But when the Speaker of the House, the third in line to the presidency, is sitting there going, oh my God, he doesn't know what he's signing as far as legislation goes or as far as executive orders go. No wonder the last 4 years were just like, it's like being on a spinning top. You didn't know when it was going to end. It's like being on one of those old school metal merry-go-rounds we used to play on as a kid. You know, you just hold on for dear life and hopefully you don't get thrown off. And that's going to be a scary thing if you're the Speaker of the House. You're going to think to yourself, oh my God. You know, the guy is not there and they're using him. And in a way you feel bad. You're like, wow, you kind of feel bad. Even though he did a lot of corrupt things. You know, the pardons. He did the pardons. Trump said that he actually issued the pardons 15 minutes before his presidency ended. Joe Biden.
So while he was sitting there.
While he was sitting there.
Which is what those papers might have been. Remember I told you, he's holding on to something.
He had signed them, and then he signed them, I guess, back there before coming out and didn't know what they were. Biden knew what they were. But by the way, pardon Dr. Anthony Fauci. Do you know what time the pardon goes to?
What time?
It covers 2014. Begins in 2014. Do you know what Dr. Anthony Fauci was doing in 2014?
No. Please enlighten me.
He was circumventing the federal law and ban on gain-of-function research by giving support and money to China and their labs to do gain-of-function research on coronaviruses. No offense, that guy might be responsible for all the deaths that occurred. It's plausible to make a case that if he circumvented that federal law to help support monetarily that gain-of-function research for coronavirus, he might be somebody who's killed more people, responsible for the death of more people than anyone in human history. Anyone in human history. How many people died from COVID worldwide? Millions. 8 million? 9 million? How many countries were devastated from the lockdowns and the economic lockdowns?
Too many to count. Honestly, too many to count. And if that's the case, that's awful.
So why is it specifically to 2014? Why is that pardon specifically to 2014? What do we know what do we don't know that we should know? It's entirely possible that guy is responsible for millions of deaths. I mean, let that sink in. Imagine if you had to sit there. How do you live with yourself? Why? How much stock in Moderna did he have? How much stock in?
I think you can live pretty comfortably with yourself with those paychecks.
How much? Before he was put in charge of the pandemic, how much stock did he have in those two companies, or Johnson and Johnson? So, and I'm not saying he had all of it. I'm not saying he had. I'm just saying that's the pardon. And why does Joe Biden's family get pardoned? Like, what did they do? They weren't. His brother for what? His other brother for what? Sisters for what? Like, I don't get it. They're not members of the government, but he's talking about how they'll be politically prosecuted. How can you be politically prosecuted if you're not a politician?
I think it's because remember the alleged money laundering schemes using his title with the son.
Well,
They might have been involved. And he's worried that on that laptop there's connections there.
well, here's the difference. Trump didn't pardon any of his family members when he left office. You know why? Trump said it himself. You make me look guilty, and I'm not guilty. He goes, these pardons, it's because they're guilty. It's because they did something. You got people from January 6th. You got Mark Milley as a general who, no offense, if General Mark Milley, was not doing something that he was asked to do by the President of the United States, that's not a disagreement.
That's a
violation of the chain of command. That's a dishonorable violation of the chain of command. If Trump tells him to go jump in a river,
you gotta jump in the river.
I don't care if you're the Joint Chief of Staff. You go jump in the fucking river because the president told you to. That's the way it works, and that's the way it's got to work. Whether you think you think the order's silly or not, otherwise it gets broken down. So, but Mark Milley must have done something to, I don't know, either deny an order made by the president, or did he do something to subvert the president that could be caused for grounds of constitutional violation? You think of it that way.
And I don't think we'll ever know, unfortunately.
Well, here's the thing with pardons, and here's the two upsides with federal pardons. One, they only cover federal crimes. The state attorney generals can investigate as much as they want because a federal pardon doesn't cover it. Number two, once you've been pardoned for something on a federal level, you can call before Congress. You can't plead the fifth because you're not self-incriminating yourself.
Right. So there's nothing he can do if called upon.
If he gets called upon, he's going to tell him, he's going to answer everything.
He's got to be truthful. You can't lie.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
So,
well, at least that's one thing to look forward to.
Although Trump made some pardons today, I don't agree with. I agree with most of the Jan 6 protesters getting pardoned because they're protesting. Yeah, things get a little out of hand, but you know what? Summer of Love. I remember seeing all these cities burn from peaceful protests. And no one's gonna have a problem with that. The Proud Boys, I had a problem with. I'm like,
yeah, they're a little questionable, no?
Yeah, they serve time. I get it. These are just groups I just wish he wouldn't associate his name with.
Right.
At all. But those are his pardons. I mean, he
can do what he wants.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we can really judge him for the pardons made.
You know what? I don't think anyone can look at him and go, we have criticism over your pardons. Even though he'll take the criticism and he'll argue about it. But if you want to argue with Trump, pardoned people who actually served. It wasn't just pardons. The problem was, I think, a clemency. They got their sentences cut. They weren't like their lives weren't like they're expunged. Their records weren't expunged. But you can't argue against the guy's pardons. If you're a Democrat, you have nothing. You have no leg to stand on.
No, you literally have no leg.
Because I just said Joe Biden. Worst. I think I've solidified. I think he's the number 5 worst president.
Yeah, he might be the worst
in the history of the United States. He's number 5. Number 5. He's in the top 5. I don't know if he's number 5. He's in the top 5, definitely. That's how bad this. Just based off of feeling like you just felt icky. Like it just didn't feel good to be an American while he was president.
No, because he just didn't really. He didn't treat the office right, and he didn't uphold it.
He didn't inspire you.
No, it didn't inspire you. He was more of a joke at times, to be honest.
Yeah, he really was. It was just like every time he was on, you're like, please don't do something stupid. Please don't say something stupid. Please don't make something stupid. Please don't. I look back. I think.
And that's not what you're looking for in a president. You want someone confident. That should not be your concern. Your concern should be, please don't mess the economy up.
Yeah.
Please make a right decision here. Please be faithful to the office and the oath you took.
I think he lost the second term. I think it goes back a couple of years. Afghanistan withdrawal. I think that's what lost him the second term. I think overall that's what turned the tide. I think there was no stopping the downward spiral after that. Never mind inflation and all that. That was just icing on the cake. But I think just as a president and just seeing it handled, that's what started the whole. And everything just kept accelerating. That he was never gonna win. He says he would have won. By the way, now he comes out and he goes, I should have ran instead of Kamala. I would have won. Dude, it was a 39% polling gap between people who wanted Trump to be president versus who wanted to reelect Biden. There's no way he was going to win. He was just delusional, right?
I like the belief though.
He believed. He didn't know what he was signing, but he believed. But it just didn't feel good to be an American, you know. And I know we still have problems. It's okay to have problems, but it just didn't feel good the way we were addressing it. It just felt like we were just we weren't a priority. Americans weren't a priority. It never felt like a priority, and I think that's the one thing Trump made people a priority, and I think that's what really drove everything. Never mind the issues. They win on policy. Period. It's a policy win, no matter what. There's very little I can think the Democrats can actually win on policy at this moment. You name an issue, I don't think they win.
No.
Maybe pro-choice. That might be the only one that gets them a little over the goal line. But anything else, economy, foreign relations, military, they lose. Environmental policy, they lose. Emergency response, they lose. Look at the freaking natural disasters we've had in the response. North Carolina still hasn't gotten the help they need from hurricanes. Neither is South Carolina, neither is Florida. Never mind the wildfires. We've totally forgotten about Maui.
Yeah, Maui's just been left as an island.
You know, that's still not
over there. No one's concerned about those people anymore, I guess.
People don't feel crime. Democrats don't win on crime. Immigration, they don't win on immigration. I mean, I can't name a policy that they would win. That they would be able to articulate something that says this is good for you as an American, and be able to convince the American people on a general election. Sure, you can go into the bastion of liberalism and go to Cambridge, Massachusetts, and convince people that, you know,
easily can you convince
that puberty blockers for 12-year-olds is a good idea.
But can you convince a national audience? No. There are many people in the middle who either don't care about those issues or do kind of care, but just don't have the education for it. Not saying that they're dumb, but they just don't know about it.
Yeah. And who's the face of the Democratic Party now? It's not Newsom. He's gone. His political career's over. Sorry, can't be him. It's not Kamala. She got embarrassed like no other candidate in the recent history.
And she never won an election. She's never won an election. No election.
She wasn't good at her job. Everybody knows that. She's a loser.
She went back on her word when she was vice president. I remember she was visiting, Guatemala? I believe it was.
No, that's mayor.
No.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
She was visiting Guatemala and she said, don't come.
Don't come.
Even though she was like on the campaign trail, I was like, please come.
Yeah.
We're going to make immigration easier. Do not come.
I'm going to come.
I'm going to come. What did you think was going to happen?
Is it Whitmer? Is it Gretchen Whitmer? Is that the new face?
No. No,
Hakeem Jeffries is very well respected as a Democratic minority leader.
I think he's all right.
He's all right.
I think he's all right.
But I don't think in a general election?
No. I think he's all right as a Senate leader. I think he was better there.
Well, no, he's a House leader.
Oh, House leader. Sorry, I thought you said Senate.
No, House.
Sorry, House leader. But as a president, he needs more. He needs age. We have to, age in the office and the position he's in right now.
Is it John Fetterman that's positioning himself?
Fetterman looks the best. I can't believe I'm saying that. Granted, I do wish you at least wore a suit for my sake in that hole. But at the same time, I do think it's cool that you were like, no, you're going to dress and present yourself as a normal person, and you've kept to that. That's great. I think that's amazing. You're genuine to who you are, and that's a good message to put out to the American people. Okay,
let's put Fetterman aside.
Who else?
Who else? It's not Elizabeth Warren. She's been tried, tested, and failed. Pocahontas, she's never going to outlive Pocahontas. She's always going to be Pocahontas.
I think maybe she can. Bernie was the guy.
Bernie's too old. Bernie's done.
But now Bernie's too old.
It's not Hillary.
No.
Even though she's going to run again, I bet.
I think Hillary loses. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Sorry. You lost the first time, and now you have Trump twice. I don't think after a Trump presidency, they're going to put in Hillary.
J.D. Vance would kill her in a debate.
Anyways. I think Newsom is still up there, even though he's done a horrible job with the fires. I think he's still up there. Yes, he's done a horrible job, but he's been able to at least position himself in direct opposition with Trump, which can give him kind of brownie points with his own people.
With a liberal base, sure.
Liberal base.
But the minute they start putting out the sound bites of it's Trump's fault that the fires are here, or hey, I don't know why the water's not here, that's a local question, and putting his hands up in the air, it's over again.
Yeah, no. But until that happens, he still looks the best. Outside of Jeffers.
I don't know if he does.
Who else? You're not. Cortez is not. Did you see what?
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez?
Did you see what she was doing at? We talked about this on the floor when they were.
Oh
passing
yeah, she was saying that Republicans want to inspect child's genitals.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she's a whack job.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah,
she's a whack job. Only in her district will she ever get elected. She'll never become senator of New York.
God, I hope not.
No, they're radical, but they're not that radical. I cannot think of any Democratic governor
that is prominent
or Democratic mayor that would be able to take up the reins of the Democratic Party. I think they even know it, that they're done for the next 8 years. These 4 and then the next 4. And I think they're thinking about maybe who challenges J.D. Vance. Because I think
they've been up for next election. The next election, they realized, let's just focus on the House.
Yeah.
House and Senate. That's what their best shot is.
Yeah.
Presidency-wise, if Trump succeeds, this is a red carpet for Vance, and it's up to Vance to do what he needs to do to keep his position.
But the urgency about trying to not... Okay, say
Trump... real quick before I'm sorry to interrupt you. 8 years from now, are any of these guys going to be better qualified?
No, I don't think so.
Ocasio, no. Pelosi's gone by then. Schuck's gone by then, probably.
You would think.
I would imagine. Who else? Fetterman, Jeffries. Sorry.
Hakeem Jeffries?
Jeffries,
for
maybe.
President?
In 8 years? He could, if he does a good job and he gathers a base and he builds some popularity within the party
possible.
And on a national stage, it's possible. He just has to be smart. He's got to be smart and he's got to understand what failed the past 2 Democratic nominees.
But what I was going to say is that the urgency, okay, say Trump has a wonderful 4 years, does everything he's promised to do, which is what it seems like he's doing.
He's on the way.
He does, the economy turns around, the future looks bright, the wars end, all that. It's pretty much a shoo-in J.D. Vance takes over for him and becomes president.
Yeah, because he can kind of slap his name on the side of that.
The danger of that is, okay, let's say all the Supreme Court justices hang on for Trump's 4 years.
He's going to be able to...
All right, then the winner of the next presidential election is probably going to be able to name probably 3 Supreme Court justices. And they
maybe 4. Maybe even 4.
Maybe 4. And you can't have it be J.D. Vance if you're a Democrat, because you're going to get 4 plus the young 4. You're going to have an 8-1 majority on the Supreme Court. Democrats can't have that. They can't.
So they put themselves in such a bad position.
Yep.
Because what they should have done in this election was they should have got Biden to drop out earlier. If they were going to do that.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
That's also part. He said he was going to be a transitional president. He said he was only going to run that one term, and he didn't stick to it. He said he was going to run again. But by the way, do you realize that his reason for running is a lie? Remember the reason he gave for running for president 5 years ago. Now you know the whole lie with Charlottesville and Trump, where he says there's good people on both sides, and he's talking about white supremacists, but that's all a lie. It's been debunked that Trump really said that there's no place and condemned the white supremacy there, but he said the people on either side of the statue debate are ordinary citizens, not the white supremacists, just the ordinary citizens. Saying,
right.
There's good people on both sides. Well, they had that lie. Well, Biden used that lie that got repeated over and over and over, been debunked over and over and over again, and just shows just how much the media and the Democratic Party lies to the American public.
Which has now even hurt the Democratic Party even more, because now you don't trust those news sources that are Democratic.
Biden came out 5 years ago and said the reason why I'm running is because of that Charlottesville speech, that those comments Trump made. He's a white super. So even the reason for Biden running, even his reason, was a lie. It's a lie.
It's all a lie.
Everything he's done, everything he's said, it's all been lies. He's just a liar. He's just an untruthful, unworthy person. So that, from the beginning of that is the downfall and death of the Democratic Party at this point, because I don't see it resurrecting, and because it's no longer okay. When I was growing up,
to say it's the death of it is a little extreme, because it's still going to be there.
Okay, when I was growing up in Massachusetts, and I was, as a kid in Massachusetts, growing up in the late 70s and the 80s, JFK, the Kennedy family, they were royalty politically. But if you were interested in politics like I was as a kid, Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, that Democratic Party, civil rights, free speech, all of that.
It was the Democratic Party. That was the definition.
Those are things that we owned. unions, small business, blue collar, working class, middle class. That was that was the area of the Democratic Party. But what happened is the Democratic Party got greedy and they saw money and power and celebrity and fame. What happened? Okay, let me walk you through it. And this is sort of like my journey from Democrat to Republican. All right. I started to get uncomfortable as I got into my teenage years with the whole idea of, okay, here's Bill Clinton. Well, he's playing his saxophone on the Arsenio Hall show. There's his sunglasses on. Oh, I guess that's cool. I guess that's cool. That's politics. But what about what you're going to do as president, right? And I'm not saying Bill Clinton was a bad president. Either way, we can argue that either way. But what happened is that the Republicans sort of stayed Republican, stiff and whatnot, but the Democrats started to take the media and
they got
celebrity.
Addicted to it. They got addicted to it because it's a high life.
Yes, and they got addicted to the celebrity of being the celebrity, the cult of personality. And the Republicans never had that. The Republicans were horrible at the cult of personality.
Unless you were Reagan.
But after that, you had George H. Bush, the first Bush, right? And then you kind of like, he got, he
did good.
You did good for 4 years, but it really wasn't that great. Then comes along Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was the media darling, the cult of personality, the comeback kid, all these. It was like this whole media blitz and personality of just propping you up as almost like you're a movie star. It's like, okay, the Republicans they didn't know how to do that. I mean, who did he run against the second time? He ran against Bob Dole. Have you ever seen?
No.
Bob Dole, great senator from Kansas, honorable man, old guy, had to hold a pencil half the time because he couldn't, stop his hand from shaking. He had no cult of personality. It was like against Bill Clinton.
Bill was running that.
And then you get George W. Bush. All right, that was a tight, closer election. Why was it? Because Al Gore didn't have. Because the whole thing is like, the vice president should become the nominee. So they gave it to Al Gore. Al Gore became the nominee. Al Gore is very boring to listen to. He's very boring to his speech. So he didn't have that cult of person. They lost it a little bit. And here comes George W. Bush.
Loud Texan.
Here's a Texan, right? I don't drink. I used to be an alcoholic. I like to crack jokes with you. Everybody just wanted to have a beer with him, right?
You still want to have a beer with him. You see him.
He doesn't drink.
He's laughing his ass off.
Right? So he had a little bit of that cult, but it really wasn't. I mean, talk about the lesser of two evils would be in that. And it was such a razor-thin margin, 543 votes in Florida, right?
Right.
But then what happens after George W. Bush?
9/11.
Obama.
Oh, I'm talking about 9/11 and then Bush again.
No, Obama. We're just talking presidential.
Then Obama.
Talk about.
He's charismatic as hell.
Most charismatic man ever hold the presidency.
Probably.
I mean, even just him walking into the inauguration, he walked in like a
president. Like a president. I wanted to go be like,
badass president.
I want to salute and be like, Mr. President, we have a situation.
Yeah. The guy walked in by himself because Michelle didn't want to be there. Dude, cool as hell.
Yeah.
Agree with him, like him, don't agree with him.
He's a cool guy.
Right? But what happens after Obama? We got wise. Cult of personality.
Trump.
And guess what? What did they run? Hillary? Joe Biden? Kamala Harris? No cult.
Joe Biden won the first time, but that was a. It's all. I almost want to say it was a fluke because you had the COVID pandemic.
But as a young Democrat, I started to see all the issues go the other side. I'm like, well, I'm interested in free speech. Why are the Democrats canceling people for saying things? That's not free speech, right? But the Republicans say it's okay to say things. Okay, all right.
I agree with you there.
Like, I was a huge fan. Like, growing up, I was a huge fan of stand-up comedy. And I realized, Democrats, you can't joke about that. But I like joking about that.
I'm making fun of everything. I do.
Yeah, I do. I make fun of everything.
I'm a terrible person when it comes to that.
It's like,
nothing's off.
Oh, you're just interested in these millionaires and tech billionaires and great people in business, but what are they doing? Oh, they're Democrats and they're funneling money and money and money. And I'm like, oh.
And they got some weird donors that you never heard about in the background. It's like, this doesn't look good. No, I'm not saying that Republicans don't have that.
They do.
They do.
But the problem is, those donors and those same people, and those celebrities, those endorsements would get on camera and tell me that I was a bad person if I didn't think their way. Well, the Republicans are saying, we have a large tent. You don't have to agree with us on everything, but, we'll listen. And I started thinking to myself, they
didn't really call you names.
Yeah, I get called. The Democrats I grew up with, And the party I grew up with is now calling me names because I might disagree on a couple of different topics. Because I might be pro-life instead of pro-choice, even though I believe in everything else.
If you're not 100% with the program, you're not with the program.
Then I'm not with the program. Oh, because I don't agree with certain ideologies. But my faith, what about my faith? My faith tells me I got to think one way or belief in one way, and I try to reconcile it. But then I'm a bad person because I'm not rejecting my faith in favor of politics. I'm like, that's not the way it's supposed to work. So that's why you start the Republicans, without even thinking about it, they just, all this stuff fell in their lap. The middle class, religious right, religious freedom, free speech,
constitutional,
yeah.
They became the party of the Constitution,
and that's why I think you'll never see if they don't figure it out. If they keep doing what they're doing,
they're trying to find the next personality. You can even see it now. They're kind of fishing for it.
But look what they're doing already. Elon Musk is a Nazi.
Yeah,
because of the way he saluted. Right? It's already the same BS. Trump is causing fear in people because the poor woman at the border is crying because the CBP One app isn't working and she can't cross with ease. If they don't stop and say, if Fetterman's trying to be honest with them, not listening to them, but if they don't stop and honestly say, listen, we went too far. We need to pull back. We need to kind of like rethink this. We need to
because they're going off the edge almost.
Yeah, they're hanging off the edge, and they're saying, okay, and Fetterman's the only one going, hey, we should pull ourselves up. And everyone else is saying we should let go.
We should go with it, go all in.
Yeah.
It's like being at the casino. You're down. You're down to your last bet.
Yeah. So
you gone to the roulette table. It's black or red.
So here I am, a student of politics, a student of international relations, an academically well-credentialed individual from the cradle of liberalism in Massachusetts. Where did I end up? I ended up in Texas.
And a Republican.
And as a Republican conservative going, wow, this feels much better. Granted, I'm south of the border now because that's what I'm married to. But
what I'm married to.
But ideology, geographically and ideological wise, I ended up in Texas. Thank God I did, but I didn't make that. I got pushed there. Literally got pushed there by the Democratic Party. They pushed me out, not wanted. Maybe it's because I'm male, I'm pale, I'm stale, I'm straight. I don't know.
Maybe a wife and kids. How dare you?
I got a nuclear family. I believe in the content of character instead of the color of skin. That's the reason why. And I'll never go back. I really don't ever foresee myself ever going back to the Democratic Party. I'm very happy being a conservative now, being a Republican. I'm a convert. I'm born again.
You can say born again Christian for a moment there. And I'm like,
that's what happened. And so now you have this Democratic Party that is gonna.
It's not even there anymore. It's not just that anymore. It's also did you see what happened earlier today at the National Cathedral?
Yeah, with the priest,
the bishop, the priest,
the woke female bishop lecturing Trump as he's there. Like, that's not your place.
That's not your place. You're supposed to give the traditional service. Mm-hmm. If you want to do that, I'm sure he's more than willing to listen to you since you hold quite a prominent position at that cathedral.
Yeah,
on the hill. I'm sure he'll listen to you and your concerns.
Yeah.
You don't need to ruin something, especially something at a cathedral that is, no offense, Catholic and Christian. I don't think the things you're saying is quite, Catholic or Christian in doctrine, right? It's almost considered an affront to most.
It is.
Who believe.
It is. This person is not this person should not be wearing the robe. But there she is. She in 2020 she was protesting Trump wearing a mask and screaming into a camera, saying horrible person.
Is it gonna? We're gonna put. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it up. Yeah, just behind the times. Let's see. What's her name?
I don't know.
Let's see. I'm trying to get here. Yeah. Bishop Miriam Edgar Budd arrives as President Donald Trump looks on during the national prayer service in Washington, and that's a prayer. That's a service for him.
Yeah.
That's not a service for her.
No.
But she made it about her.
Yeah. And that's wrong.
And that's the thing. Guess what? A bishop, you can truly understand that she is a corrupt person. She's a corrupt soul. And I mean that in a religious sense, and I mean that in a spiritual sense. Because she's not a bishop, a religious figure, a person of the cloth is there to serve God. Not themselves. They make all these oaths and all these commitments to serve God.
Right.
And she's only serving herself and her own values and her own wishes. And that's a terrible thing. It's a terrible message, terrible position. And the president handled it with place.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they handled it perfectly. So the advance, they sat there.
Yep.
They listened because honestly, you don't have much of a choice. If I was in the crowd, I would have been yelling at that bishop. I would have interrupted and been like, "This is enough front."
Here's what she said. I have a transcript.
Oh, you have a full transcript?
Here's her transcript. And here's where she serves herself and not God.
Go with Gringo here.
Quote, "Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you, and as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives." She's outright calling him someone who threatens the lives of people who just got elected president. And
also,
she's doing it from the pulpit of the National Cathedral? This person should be defrocked. This person should be removed. The church should remove her from any role, religious, spiritual, or otherwise, and send her off on whatever hippie mission she wants to be on to go and preach to whoever she wants to on the street.
Because it goes against doctrine also, too.
Yes.
Let's not talk about that.
All right?
Should be happy with the body that God has provided you with.
I ain't done. That's just
a warm-up? I heard that part.
The people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings.
Oh, yes.
Who labor in poultry farms and meatpacking plants. Who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals. They may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. So she's making a political statement. That's not her place to make a political statement.
No.
She's saying, no, sorry, if they're illegal, that's a criminal. I don't care if they're washing dishes. I don't care if they're taking x-rays. I don't care what they're doing. They're vacuuming your floors. If they're illegal, they're criminals. It's not your place as a bishop to make a legal or political distinction. You can say they're all children of God because we're all children of God. That's fine. But she's saying this to him, to his face, right?
In a service that's supposed to be about him and for his own benefit.
And here's where they lie. Here's where she lies. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. Let me tell you something. Almost every illegal immigrant that worked for me in Target during those first few years would brag to me about how they manipulated their tax forms. One lady who didn't have any children, wasn't married, would say, "Yeah, I told on my tax forms I have 12 children, so I get tons of money back." They all do it. They all would brag to me about it. It was insane. So they don't pay their taxes; they're taking your taxes.
Well, not all of them, but some. There's a good chunk. I mean, from your experience, at least.
I'll say the majority. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, gurdwara, and temples.
That's great.
That's great. That's great that they're faithful members of their religious organizations. That does not give them the right
to break laws.
To break laws.
No.
Last paragraph. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear their parents will be taken away. Okay? Again, people... I'm going to say two things here. When it comes to the separation of parents from children. When you were a little boy, if I decided that I was going to pick you up from school, but a couple hours before I went to pick you up from school, I decided to have a 6-pack of beer and guzzle that down. And I picked you up, and I was drunk, and I drove off, and I got pulled over. Do you know what would happen to me? I'd be arrested. Do you know what happened to you?
I get taken away.
You get taken away. You would be separated from me. You know why? Because I committed a fucking crime, and it's the right thing to do is to separate you and put you in a proper, safe environment. Number one. So the separation of children from families or from people who committed crimes is a long-standing tradition of any law enforcement action, whether you're illegal immigrant or not. If I commit a crime, my children are going to get taken away from me. If you're out there and you have children under the age of 18, if you commit a crime and you're with your children, they're not going to put you into jail with me. No, they're going to take you off. They're probably going to take you. If they can't find your mother, you're going to end up in the ward of the service of the state. That's a great place to be. Anyways, second off, you see the cages, the famous picture of the cages with children in it at the border.
Mm-hmm.
The very Trump separate. Do you know when those cages were built?
Obama
built those cages with Joe Biden. Do you know when that picture was taken of that child in the cage? It was taken during the Obama administration. If you look at the tagline, the copyright of that, but they keep saying it's Trump. He said, no, the Democrats have been separating children at the border from their families for decades.
It's like a national pastime at this point.
By the way, the government came out with a statistic. It's an average number. How many children are missing over the last 4 years of the administration from over the border?
300,000?
300,000. 304,000 children are estimated to be missing that crossed the border illegally with people who really weren't their parents, probably. They were probably being human trafficked, but they crossed the border illegally. We're missing.
We're missing 300,000 children.
We're missing 300,000 children. We're missing 100 times the amount of people that got lost that were murdered on 9/11.
For reference, I mean, how many people live in Wyoming? Not many.
Not many.
Actually, surprising, a lot more than I thought. 548,000. That's like 2/3 of the state.
548,000. So let's say 600,000 people live in the state of Wyoming. 304,000 children are missing from crossing the border into the country. We don't know where they are, if they're safe or not. That's half the population of a fucking state. But, Donald Trump's the bad guy because he wants to fix it. But let me continue with our sermon from her mount. All right. Taken away. And that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here. Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger, for we were all once strangers in this land. May God grant us the strength and courage to honor the dignity of every human being, to speak the truth to one another in love, and walk humbly with each other in our God, for the God of all people, for the good of all people, and the good of all people in this nation and the world. Amen. She gave a politically charged speech, calling out the newly inaugurated president, calling him a thug, a murderer, labeling him with all these horrible things. She should be defrocked. She should never be allowed again into the church.
I agree. Well, maybe not. She can be still allowed into churches to pray if she wants.
Oh yeah, but to
serve, no. To give you a reference about that number, the population of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is 303,000.
So we're basically missing the population.
You're missing an entire U.S. city of children. You're missing so many children you could run a city.
But I wonder, did she give a speech about that from the pulpit when Biden was there? No, she sees Trump, orange man bad. Orange man bad.
I mean, that's crazy. I mean, it's almost the full population of New Orleans, which is 365,000. Yeah.
So it's really amazing how some people have their head so far up their ass. And that's someone who that is someone who's supposed to serve God. She's serving herself. She's not an instrument of God. She's an instrument of a demon. That's what she is. Because only a demon would serve themselves like that. That's how I believe. So, but Trump handled it like a gentleman. Like a gentleman, like a president. He handled it like a president. He didn't fall down. He didn't fall asleep. He sat there. He listened. He took the feedback and basically knows that she's wrong. And went about his day. When asked about it by a reporter, he said, yeah, it wasn't too exciting. They could have done better. That's all he said. Threw a little shade. They could have done better. Yeah, they could have done better.
They should have done better.
They should have done better.
They should have made sure that someone should have interrupted within the clergy.
I think so. All right. Wow, we ran long today.
We did run long. I'm glad we touched that because I don't know if you had that on the schedule.
I didn't. I had seen it, and I'm someone who served my church for a long time. I've never seen. Usually, when you have a bishop, and I've been in front of bishops and cardinals before. I've heard them speak. I've heard them speak at political functions. I've heard them speak at social functions. I've heard them speak at religious functions. I've never heard one give a politically partisan charged speech, nor label or call out or demonize another human being
during a service.
Yeah. And it just shows you what the left is all about.
Yeah.
Their policies can't win. Demonize the other side. And it ain't going to work anymore because the country's too smart. We're tired of being called names and we don't really care. By the way, most of Generation X, we don't care if you call us names. We don't care. We used to call each other names for fun. But with that, it's been a long. We gotta go check on your mom.
You gotta go check. I think she's asleep. I'm gonna be honest. I think she's out cold.
She's out cold.
Probably stone cold.
Oh, we have leftover pizza, don't we?
Yeah, we do. And I got cheese for nachos.
Ooh, dude, I can't wait. You know what?
And I got my sauce. I'm hungry now, Gringo. You got me thinking about food. I was here at the end looking at some hats, which I will get you your dinner for those joining us who don't know. We had a bet about the pardons. I looked like I was gonna win. I thought he had a. At first, when he made that bet, I thought he would win. But as time went by, it started to switch. I started to get a lot more hope, momentum. Gringo here thought, Sunday, what was it, Sunday night? It was over.
Sunday night.
You thought it was over. You're like, damn, gonna have to get ahead. And then 15 minutes before he left office, he's like, hey, I've got some pardons I want to pass. You nailed them. You nailed them. You actually underguessed. But you nailed the other ones.
I nailed them.
You got the nailed. Your core 3 that you said he would get them. They all got it. And plus a few extra.
Well, what's going to be fun is that this week, Thursday, we're going to do a couple of streams. We're going to do a video game stream because a new video game's coming out. Actually, it's not new. It's 25 years old. They're reissuing it. It's called Jedi Power Battles, Episode 1, Star Wars. Can't freaking wait. Although when we stream it, remind me, turn off the music.
Yes.
Like the sound effects, sure. The music, though, that'll get
copyrighted. Yeah, there you go.
That'll be fun. It's one of my favorite video games of all time from the PS1 and PS2 days. I can't wait. They've reissued it. New characters and stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun Thursday. You
know what game I'm excited for this year? I know maybe I'll get it if either I have my own station or if I'm still here. Who knows? GTA 6. I've never played a GTA game, but I've always watched my friends play it, and I've technically kind of played it. Someone had it on their computer. They brought it to school.
You never played Vice City when I had it?
I did play Vice City a bit when you had it. It's Vice City, but modern now. That's what GTA 6 is. Miami, it's Vice City all over again. But it's bigger. It's the biggest. It looks awesome.
Those are always fun. Those are always a lot of fun.
The online aspect is what's fun now, too. Yeah. And so I want to play that. So.
And I'm going to go back to Star Wars Outlaws now that they redid all the updates. I just want to see. I paid $70 for it. I played it for 2 hours and I said, give a review how trashy it was and just how bad it was.
Make another review on it. Be like, did they save it? Question mark?
Revisiting Star Wars Outlaws.
Saved or ruined? Ruins are saved. Maybe you can come up with a new name with that for the episode. We'll figure it out.
I'll go hang out with Ma'am Solo one more time. Ma'am Solo. Ma'am Solo. That's not Han Solo. That's Ma'am Solo. Anyways. All right. With that, everybody, thank you for everybody for watching and checking in. The likes, the subscriptions, all that fun stuff. And with that, it's been an awesome couple of days with this new president. And I can't wait to see what comes up.
It's going to be interesting. Hopefully we'll see more improvements. Things get solved and resolved.
Yeah. But I'm going to go be a loving husband, go give my wife a kiss on the head and see how she's doing because she's not feeling too well.
I'm going to be a selfish bastard and I'm going to go get some food.
That's what you do best. So from south of the border, everyone, have a good night. Salud and a huevo.
Adios. Buenas noches.